I'd like to call the, what is it, June 27th, Montecito Board of Architecture Review consent items to order. You are here for that? Item number C1? Do you have anything that you'd like to say to us? Okay, very good. So Rob, do you have any comments on this?
No, I don't.
Okay, and neither did I. So I'm ready to recommend approval at the full board. All we do is review and then recommend approval or denial or whatever. And we'll recommend approval. And the board will vote. That's the official vote, and that will take place in about 25 minutes or so. Okay, and if you'd like to wait, we'd love to have you. If you want to go, to date, they've never contradicted us. But actually, before I say that, because this is on for preliminary, is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number C1, 1410 Greenworth Place, please?
No request to speak on this.
Very good. Chances are they won't show. If anybody wanted to comment, they would have commented now. So, okay. Thank you.
Stick around for the next 3 hours.
Yeah.
She'll get her money's worth. Yeah.
And then she'll leave screaming. Good luck with that decision if you want to go forward with it.
Yep.
Have you gone into school yet? I'd like to call the June 27th, 2024 meeting of the Montecito Board of Architecture review to order. First item is public comment. Is there anybody that'd like to address the board? Please.
And not seeing any hands raised online.
Okay. Agenda status report. David, please.
We just have one change to today's agenda. The agent for item number 2 for San Ysidro BB Property LLC Pool House for the unaddressed property on San Ysidro Road has requested a continuance to your next meeting, which should be July 11th.
We have a motion to that effect, please. Just two.
Number two.
Just,
I'll make a motion to continue item 2, 0 San Ysidro Road till the next meeting available.
is there a second, please?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Minutes. Any comments on the minutes, please?
I have one comment on C7.
C7, okay.
I don't know if it's necessary, but it says that applicant to replace 3 of the 4 proposed California sycamore trees with a lower evergreen tree species such as blah, blah, blah. And then I wanted to add to preserve neighborhood mountain views. Is that, or is that not necessary?
I think just having the specification on the trees is enough.
And leave it as is.
Oh, anybody else, please? Okay, so on item number C2, under the action, when you count the number of people that aren't there, something's wrong with who's recused and who, okay? So I believe Robert had come back by that time. Okay. Okay, then on item C4, in the action on the last line, the artist and light fixture is actually a specific brand name, so I think that A should be capitalized. It's not just sort of something, it's a specific brand. Okay, item 3, under the MBA comments, this was the project on Picacho that Andy Newman brought in. And I thought comments Andy Roteman, I'm sorry, comment 2, 3, 4, 5 were kind of squishy. I think I'm wondering if people could figure out more precise language, or is this good enough for what we want to do?
Well, I think we also asked that he just draw a little better illustration of what he's proposing. It was very single line kind of a thing there.
Well, I agree with all of that. So, but I just want, is this minutes accurately reflect what happened or not, please?
The facades and fenestration was my comment.
And was that what you said pretty much?
Yeah, I get, yes.
Okay,
I think that sounds pretty good, all that's shown there.
okay, very good. It seemed a little squishy to me, but. Yeah, okay, so item number 8. This was Adele Yamada's project. And the action, no action taken, project may return for a preliminary and final. Was that to the full board or was that to consent? Do people remember? Is your mic on?
They did not have a landscape plan for the most part. It was just a couple like bubble diagrams. I don't-
Board.
I actually,
But I don't know if they need one.
I remember that the official come back to, on consent, but I think it went the other way.
Okay, so this should be, I think we should add there at the full board so that she doesn't come and this and that, okay? And if she says something, it's because we did review it and that's what we concluded. Okay, and then this is kind of an interesting thing. The last item, item number 10, is it? Tip actually left the room 1685, but it's also his project. So Watson moves, carried by a vote of 6-0. Kung absent or recused or both?
We had this discussion when Dave was gone one time. So I'd put both last time, so it's whatever
I
you
think-
want.
I'd rather have absent slash recused so that it's very clear that, is that okay?
It's fine with me.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you, and that sort of makes it very clear. I'm, well, why did he leave? I know why he left. He had stuff to do, okay? But technically, he could have left the room and then that would have been a recusal. But I think, I just want to keep ourselves squeaky clean, that's all. So if we could put in slash recused, I think it would be better. It's probably part of the Department of Redundancy Department, but. Okay, is there a motion for approval of the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Is there a second to that, please?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay, MBAR's informational
um,
briefing.
Abstaining from the ones that I stepped down from.
Members informational briefing, anybody?
Oh, okay, two things. Number one, I will be recused from the last item today. Item number number 10, 1278 East Valley Road.
Okay,
Number two, I did have a lunch at the Miramar to unveil the new project that will be back to the board probably next month. So that's it.
anybody else?
No.
I received a phone call from Bryce Ross also to review these plans. I'm going to see him next week or something. And also, I got a phone call from Das Williams, and they apparently, the Miramars refiled their application for something in some way, which limits the number of public hearings that they can be subjected to. And therefore, there's a high probability we will have a joint meeting with the planning commission so we can take 2 meetings and shrink it to 1. Okay, and it's just about state law. I don't know whether or not they will join us. We will join them, or we'll have a separate, but I just kind of wanted to put that out there to everybody, okay? I haven't been in joint meetings since I've been on this board, but I was one in the city, and man, there are a lot of people in that room. So anyway, anybody else?
Quick question on that. So if we have a joint meeting and we join the planning commission, when do they meet?
Wednesdays, right?
When's
Yeah, they generally meet the third Wednesday of the month,
in the afternoon or morning?
starting in the morning.
Staff update, anybody?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Nothing for me.
And Montecito consent calendar, we had 1 item today. We reviewed it ourselves, found that it was okay, and I would like to recommend for preliminary final approval of item C1 1410 Greenworth Place. And to that end, is there anybody attending this meeting either virtually or in person that would like to address the board on this item C1 1410 Greenworth Place, please?
No requests.
Okay, so I'll make a motion for preliminary final is submitted. Is there a second, please?
Second. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay. We are back with Senate Bill 9 and telecommunication ordinance. Do we have somebody here?
Hi, good afternoon. Can you guys hear me okay? This is Karina.
Hi, you're not here with us today.
No, I'll be doing this presentation virtually. Hi, everyone.
Speak up,
Okay, can you hear me better?
speak up.
How about now? Can you hear me better?
Is that okay, everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, great. I'm just gonna wait for David, give him a few seconds to pull up the presentation again for me. Great, thank you. That's fine. We can do slide 2, David. We can start there and then I'll, perfect. Good afternoon again. So today we're just going to be going over the telecom ordinance and those objective design standards that we're proposing specifically for the county's telecom ordinance. Just as a brief, reintroduction, telecom. So under the FCC's 2018 small cell order, local jurisdictions may exercise local oversight of issues relating to aesthetics, undergrounding, and minimum spacing requirements of small wireless facilities, provided those requirements are reasonable and that they are technically feasible and no more burdensome than those applied to other types of infrastructure deployment. And staff followed a similar approach that the city of Santa Barbara took when they were developing their objective design standards. And give me a moment. Just want to make sure. Perfect. Thank you, David. That's the correct slide. So small wireless facility projects that meet these objective design standards would be exempt from design review. And these standards would take place of the BAR design review process. Additionally, these proposed standards would apply to facilities that are mounted on structures that are 50 feet or less and located on existing or replacement utility poles, non-pole concealment structures, roof of an existing structure, vaulted underground, or a similar type of support structure. Next slide. Here's an overview of the design standards I'm going to be going over in detail. Next slide. So we are proposing that all small wireless facilities be stealth as technically feasible with concealment elements that mimic or blend with the underlying support structure, surrounding environment, and adjacent uses. For new installations, antennas, associated equipment, they shall be fully concealed within the structure. And if concealment is not compatible with the pole design, then it must appear as an integral part of the structure or mounted as close to the pole as technically feasible. Next slide. For all cables, wires, and other connectors, they'll need to be routed through conduits within the pole and then also concealed from public view. And any external conduits or shrouds must be finished to match the underlying pole. Excess cables shall not be spoiled, cold, or stored on the pole's exterior. And for pole-mounted accessory equipment, they may be installed behind a street, traffic, or other type of similar sign. However, they must be placed in a location that is most concealed. Next slide. For all exterior surfaces, they shall be painted, colored, or wrapped in flat, non-reflective hues that will match the underlying support structure and also treated with graffiti-resistant sealant. All new poles or structures will need to replicate materials, colors, and finishes of existing infrastructure nearby, as well as all replacement poles or structures will need to be of the same material of the existing poles or adjacent poles. Next slide. And here's an example of a Tier 2 project where the antenna canister and the shroud is being proposed to match the existing poles materials and colors. Next slide. For shrouding all antennas and associated equipment, that may include cables, jumpers, wires, mounts. They shall be installed within a single shroud or radome, if feasible. Pole top antennas shall be visually consistent with the design, color, and scale of the underlying pole, as well as not exceed 2.5 times the median pole. For sidearm antennas, the shroud must cover the crossarm and any equipment between the vertical riser and the antenna. Next slide. Here's an example of figure 1, antenna concealed within a single shroud with a tapered cable shroud between the antenna and pole top. And then in figure 2 is an example of a pole top antenna on a wood utility pole. Next slide. For horizontal extensions, side-mounted antennas are prohibited. However, if they're infeasible, then they shall be placed as close to the support structure as technically feasible, and they may not extend more than 24 inches over any roadway or abutting private property. For pole-mounted accessory equipment, they will need to be flush with the pole and not exceed over any roadway or abutting private property as well. Next slide. So in figure 3, you'll see shrouded a side mounted antenna on a wood pole with horizontal separation. And then figure 4, a pole mounted accessory equipment shroud on a wood utility pole. Next slide. For all accessory equipment, they shall be placed underground in an underground utility district or in a location where the director determines above ground accessory equipment would restrict public rights of way. Equipment shall be installed in load-rated vaults with a slip-resistant cover if they're beneath the sidewalk. And if they're within the sidewalk, airflow vents shall be flush to grade and may not exceed 2 feet above grade. Next slide. Here's an example of flush to grade underground equipment. Next slide. And lastly, the minimum ground clearance for accessory equipment shall be at least 10 feet above ground level. For orientation, unless behind a street sign or concealment that dictates the equipment orientation on the pole, then all pole-mounted accessory equipment shall be in line with the adjacent road or oriented away from the adjacent road when concealed by landscaping or any existing vegetation. Next slide. And that wraps up telecom. Staff is, we're interested in receiving any feedback on any of these standards, or if you have any questions.
Questions, Dave?
No questions.
Robert, questions?
Green now. The designs, to me, do not really, the pole designs. So these are urban installations. Are you still doing like the fake trees anywhere?
So these standards would apply to the tier 2 small wireless facilities, so more on the smaller scale, similar to these figures that are included as examples.
No more questions.
Bill, questions?
So you had a 50-foot height limit. Does that include the antenna that sits on top? All of that has to be under 50 feet for this category, tier 2?
I believe there is, Alex, if you're on, please correct me. I believe there is still room for an extension for the antenna, but the pole itself would need to be 50 feet.
And then my second question is, I didn't see any description as to the shroud and how it should be as small as possible, I guess, if that's even a possibility. I mean, one of those images looked like it was a trash can sitting up on a pole. Be nicer if there was, maybe they could give us an idea as to a limit of the size of the equipment, and maybe 2 boxes is better than 1 big one. I don't know. Just some thoughts. Thank you.
Rob, questions, please?
You kind of went through a lot of information really quickly, and what started to be helpful are your examples. It would be nice to kind of maybe get a few more examples as to, I mean, you cited several different scenarios and then you showed a few pictures of some of them. So I feel like I don't have enough information. I'd like more information for what we're being asked to kind of evaluate myself.
Yep, questions?
No questions.
Stacy?
No questions.
There was a slide in there that said sidearms can't be more than 24 inches on private property. Really? Why should they be anywhere on over private property?
For that standard, we can definitely consider eliminating that language.
They have to stay 100% within their easement, which
Yeah.
may be public right of way, but I don't think there should be any exception whatsoever.
Yeah,
Please.
we can take that as some feedback and look at the standard again and see if that language would be appropriate to either eliminate or keep if needed.
In many cases over the past, I hate to say it, 7.5 years, every time one of these telecoms came by, one of us asked, why don't we put it in the ground and require everything to be in the ground? And they always came back and said, it's too expensive. But why can't we require it to be in the ground? They want a standard. They don't want to come and talk to us. Why don't we have them put it in the ground? Please.
Yeah, I think for undergrounding, it wouldn't apply for all situations.
Why
We
not?
can't
How would we
restrict-
distinguish that, please?
Well, we can't restrict the operator's ability to provide service. So if undergrounding wouldn't be a feasible alternative, then that wouldn't be a route for them to take.
There's a
So-
difference between technically feasible and financially feasible.
Mhm.
So-
Correct.
And they always come back with financially feasible. So if they're gonna try to not get reviewed, fine, I understand that. Why don't we make it technically infeasible? And take away the financial, they're gonna go make the statement, oh, this is financially infeasible. So that's the question. And number two, one of the biggest problems is not the equipment, but that stupid label that's on there that's always in yellow and always facing exactly in the wrong place and drawing one's eye directly to it. I would like to see some kind, and I understand I've asked, I can't remember the name of that company that brought the stuff through. I understand that there has to, what?
White cap.
No, it wasn't that. I can't remember. It was some aggregator that, anyway, like a planning company. Why can't we do something to minimize the visual impact of the color label? Can you look into that, please? That's the question.
Yeah, we can certainly look into that. I don't really have as much feedback to provide as a response. It would be something, yeah, I would have to look into and see if that's a standard that we can plug into the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. And we are agendized for Senate Bill 9 and telecom. So on Senate Bill 9, can we require that all lot splits have only affordable housing on them, please? Is that legally possible to put that condition on it?
We can restrict a unit to be considered affordable and have affordability restrictions, but ultimately the board would have to make that decision.
Can we
But
recommend
I
it?
don't know if it's, yes, you can definitely recommend it. We would include that when we go to the PC as well as the board and let them know that the Montecito Board of Architectural Review has made that recommendation, yes.
Okay, very good. Now, public comment. Is there anybody that, thank you, Karina. The public comment, is there anybody that would like to address discussion item number 1, Senate Bill 9 and telecom ordinance? either in here or online, please?
Not seeing any hands raised.
Okay, very good. So these are obviously fairly important issues. As you've noticed, I just raised the SB9 back in case we forgot something last time and want to embellish it. So comments, same order. Dave, please.
Yeah, for those of us who sat through
Excuse me?
for those of us who sat through meeting after meeting of these telecom approvals, I think the guidelines that you've proposed are essentially what we ended up doing when we reviewed them. And I actually think they're pretty good as far as having as much teeth as we could, given that it seems like the utility companies can do almost anything they want based on financial or technical reasons. But at least this gives a good standard. And I think it covered all the things that we covered when we reviewed them in the past. So unlike the other design guidelines for the lot splits, I feel like these guidelines are pretty well done, and I can't think of anything to add to it.
Is that it? Is that it? Robert, please, comments?
Well, I wasn't part of the earlier meetings except the last one, but I didn't realize these things even worked underground.
The equipment.
But you'd still have to have a receiver up,
You'd have to have an antenna, but you can put everything else down below.
I see.
The
They could do-
pushback I got was always, it's financially infeasible. But it gets all of that equipment off. All we're left with is just a single thing that goes up for the antenna.
Yeah, John, this is Alex. I think the way we've written it is it would only they'd have to demonstrate technical infeasibility, not financial.
Okay, that's what I asked Karina, and that's what,
We'll confirm that.
yeah, very good. I think that, okay, not my turn, Robert.
Well, again, I wasn't here. I guess they look no different than a Edison transformer hanging off a pole, so I guess some cases we may have both.
I think you can assume, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, but once a pole's been designated as okay, anybody can pile on. And they do pile on. So,
Yeah, I think one of the standards we're proposing is a limit on how many different antennas could pile on a single pole from a volume standpoint.
Yeah, I know even the gas company uses these things to read the meters now, and it could just keep snowballing, and I'm concerned about the aesthetic effect, especially
now,
Montecito.
Alex, what are you doing next with this, or Corinne? Are you going to Montecito Planning and then the Board of Supervisors?
Yes, so the next step would be going to both the Montecito and the county planning commissions
Or
for
you
their
can make comments
recommendation.
then, if you want. Anything else? Bill, comments, please.
Yeah, I think Karina, you did a pretty good job of, as Dave mentioned, putting things together. I would like to just stress, though, that if there was a way to limit the size, and as Alex talked about, limiting the number of things that can sit on the pole, maybe there's some, way of wording that so that those transformer pieces, the accessory parts, don't end up these huge, like, whatever size you want to put on there is okay with us, but I think we need to be able to limit or restrict that in some fashion if they are going to end up on the pole and not underground. That's all I have. Thanks.
Rob, please, comments?
A little bit of a question with the telecom stuff. I mean, I think the times I've seen telecom be successful is when they're integrated, into a building kind of by an architect who does it appropriate to the building. What is as far as, landscaping and having trees around these, what are the restrictions in terms of asking for screen tree kind of things? I know it's a site-specific issue, but are there some limitations once you start putting trees, then the effectiveness of the telecom is reduced, or the sight lines of those get greatly reduced? Or, so I guess it's kind of a comment and a question. What, as far as putting trees around a telecom pole, was there any restrictions, or can that be part of it in terms of screening?
Yeah, we do have some language in one of the standards that does include some landscaping or screening, as well as, replacement for landscape that has to be removed or is removed. But we can definitely look at the standard a little bit closer and see if there's anything else we can add to it.
I think those
I would say
monopalm, I think they call them monopalms and monopines. That may not be the correct language, but I've heard that language. I think like the monopine, some of them look horrible. And some of the palms are not bad, but it's just where they're used and kind of the surrounding environment. So it'd be nice to even come up with some other one that, some other design where they kind of blend in, and maybe a third option on that might be worth looking into. And then on the Senate Bill 9, then part of that, John, was, and I think maybe you mentioned, right, that one of the things you're asking was that all these sites have perimeter hedging.
Yes.
So that's all covered in the language at this point, or is there anything we need to?
That was in the minutes. They did pick that up. I'm not sure exactly what it means, but there are properties in and around Montecito that don't have the hedging, where if there was hedging, the visual would, the use implications, traffic, number of people, that doesn't go away, but the visual does go away.
And then what about sound mitigation stuff? Is that within our purview, where then sometimes
I don't know.
walls, or is that just getting,
I don't know how to do that.
okay?
That it?
Yes.
Tip, comments, please.
No additional comments.
Stacy, comments, please.
I have no comments about the telecom, but I just want to reiterate my support for the affordability criteria on the housing.
Yeah, Alex, I don't know if you heard it, but on the lot splits, is it legally permissive, if the Board of Supervisors is willing to do this, to restrict all use on these lots to affordable housing, please?
So, yes and no. I don't know that they could do it for all lots or, all units, because oftentimes what you'll see is you have an existing residence and then they're adding a second one. I know what the city of Santa Barbara has done is one of the two units has to be affordable. So that's probably a likelier scenario that the board would consider.
There are two things going on here. There's one, I have a lot and I'm going to put another house on it.
Yeah.
There's another one, I have a lot, I'm going to divide the lot.
Right.
Can both of those, in that second scenario, because they are neglecting local review, can it be required that both of those entire parcels has to be dedicated to affordable housing? Please.
I don't know, we can certainly explore that. I haven't seen it where all the units, even under a lot split, are, but we can explore the legality of it at least, and
could you report back to us?
share your recommendations to the board.
The reason I'm interested in doing this, if these guys are going to try to do that to us, let's make it achieve the end, which is affordable housing, and let's disincentivize, because being able to take a lot and divide it in two is a remarkable financial incentive. Let's disincentivize just the random, I'm going to take something and divide it. So that's what I'm trying to get at, Alex. If you could explore that, I'd appreciate it. And Karina, is that it?
I think that's it.
Okay, and then I want to go back to this ground-based equipment. The ugliness is not just the antenna, but all of the spaghetti that's up there. And if there's a way to get everything underground except the antenna with a single conduit going up and back, visually speaking, that would be superior in my mind. And I'm wondering if we can, you said it's technically feasible, but if there's a way to promote that so that everybody knows that's where we're going, I think that
That's
we
the
would
strong
appreciate that.
preference. Yeah, we can look at that. I know I've heard some from one of the applicants at one point that the longer the separation is between the antenna and the equipment, the more it affects their its effective or its functionality. So I've heard them use that in situations that as a reason to not propose the fully underground. But we can certainly look at that and explore that if we can sort of strengthen the preference with undergrounding where feasible.
Yeah, I have something else, but Bill wants to jump in here.
Yeah, Alex, when these things come through, is there like a outside resource, an agent that could do a peer review to say that, yeah, no, in fact, you could do an underground and it would be okay there instead of having to be, or we just rely on their input from them, or do we have a peer review resource for that stuff?
We do have the ability to seek peer review. I wouldn't say that that is routinely used on every project. Probably more common on the bigger projects, the macro towers and whatnot, than the small cell wireless facilities, which are fairly standardized. But we do have that ability.
So as I understand it, Alex, what they're talking about is degradation of the signal.
Yeah.
Because of probably of a voltage drop. And that, I think the Bill's idea is actually an excellent one, which would be for anyone that is not a underground proposal, the county requires a peer review to determine that it's technically infeasible not to do this. Because I wouldn't expect any of to me or you or anybody else on your staff to be able to do it. Can we add that as a standard or as a statement, please?
We can look into that. I can't promise we will add that, but
Give it a shot. How's that?
yeah.
Anything else, anybody, before we go on?
Yeah, I have a question on the lot splits. So maybe I was asleep, but is there a table or something that shows for a 1 acre lot, for a 2 acre lot? Because I've heard you can get 4 lots out of certain lot sizes.
No.
Okay,
It's just a two-way lot split. So you can create 2 lots out of 1, regardless of the size.
just 2.
Yeah.
And is this in perpetuity, or can they then turn around tomorrow and file for another 2, please?
The only way they could further subdivide is if they complied with standard subdivision regulations, which would mean having to meet like the minimum parcel size requirements.
But
And then they'd have to go through that.
8,000 square feet is only like a third of an acre. What? What about bigger lots? Is there a table that would cover, say,
They can only divide it into 2.
period, whether you have 2 or 4, it's only a lot split to 2.
Correct.
Okay, no
And
more.
I'll just also add that the lot split, it's roughly in half, and it has to be at least, you know, a 60-40 split at minimum.
Yeah, that's right. So if you had a 2-acre lot, you couldn't just carve off a 8,000 square foot piece. You'd have to carve off close to an acre.
Anything else, please? Thank you, both of you very much. Good luck with that.
Right, thank you.
Item number 2 has been canceled at the applicant's request, so we are on to item number 3, 354 Woodley Road. Is there anybody here, please, or online?
Hello, my name is Jason Baumgartner. I'm with EBTA Architects. I'm joined by Carlos Salinas.
Yeah, we don't want to see that yet. Okay, can you run through the project for us, please?
Got a little speech here.
Speak up a little, please.
Yes, David, can you jump ahead to sheet number 5, please, the site plan? So thank you for the opportunity to present our proposal for the remodel and addition at 354 Woodley Road. And thanks, David, for setting things up for today. This project's a French-style home inspired by chateaus, though it's not purely authentic in its representation. Originally, the home had been a composition shingle roof and currently features a 2-tone plaster base that emulates a stone base with panels. Additionally, the home includes 6 half-round dormers, which unfortunately do not take full advantage of the stunning views on the property. Our proposal aims to enhance the functionality and aesthetic appeal of the beautiful property. We're planning a 2nd floor remodel and addition within the existing footprint and volume of the home and replacement of 3 dormers on the ocean side. This adjustment will allow us to create 2 new bedrooms and a bonus room in place of the current open loft with a volume ceiling. Can you jump ahead to sheet number 14 that shows it in section? To provide some specifics, the existing square footage, including the basement groundskeeper quarters and garage, totals 7,039 square feet. Our proposal infill adds 465 square feet, bringing the new total to 7,425 square feet. These figures represent the net tallies. And while this total is 113% of the recommended maximum net floor area, it's important to note that the additions will be entirely within the home's existing volume, ensuring no impact on the site itself. The existing building stands at 25 feet 6 inches. We initially proposed to attach the dormer to the existing ridge with a 4 and 12 pitch. To comply with the height restrictions of the HOA, however, we intend to revise this proposal to a 3.5 and 12 pitch, which will lower the top of the dormer by 10.5 inches. This adjustment will provide 4.5 inches of clearance, ensuring compliance with the HOA requirements. We anticipate approval at their next meeting on July 10th. So we appreciate your time today and hope the proposal is agreeable. We hope for a conditional approval today, and we look forward to your feedback and are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, questions, Chip, please.
Oh, well, I can't seem to, do we have any elevations?
The 2 pages before, page 13 shows the rear elevation, A6.2.
Yeah, perhaps can you go to the elevation? So those are new dormers?
Correct. And the page
1, 2,
before
3.
this shows the other side of the home, which has the existing dormers.
And the additional 2nd floor is what, inside the roof?
Correct.
So you're adding just mainly 6 dormers?
We're adding 3 dormers to replace.
Which one are the new ones?
Dormers. So can you go to the next page, please? Up there.
So those are the new ones?
Correct.
And the other ones are existing?
Yes.
And what the materials with the dormers?
They will be plaster, and the roof is slate to match the existing.
So you extend it out from the slope roof?
Yes, correct.
All right, thank you.
Questions, Rob, please.
I don't have any questions at this.
Robert, questions.
No questions.
Bill, questions.
No questions.
Stacy, questions.
No questions.
Dave, questions.
Questions?
Have you had a chance to do an FAR study? I know you think it's all within the confines of the house, but have you done that, please?
Can you go to the first page, the title sheet?
That's the FAR calculation, but did you do a study, neighborhood study?
No, we did not.
Okay, very good. Public comment, is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 354 Woodley Road, please?
No requests.
Okay, so we are on for concept today. There is no planner assigned, at least as of when this agenda came out. Have you filed yet, please? For a land use permit?
No, we have
Jason?
not.
Okay. So it won't be next meeting. Comments, please. Tip.
So the revised FAR is 1.13.
Yes. Do you want me to jump in? I actually did a study.
Huh?
I did a study. Do you want?
No, I'm just asking the applicant.
Yeah, okay, very good.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, this is, to me, it's a very minor addition to the roof, and I wouldn't have any problem with that, so, thank you.
Rob, comments?
I have nothing to add.
Robert?
I think this is a clever project and the mass, bulk and scale is fairly altered, so I like this project and I'm not worried about the 1.13 because the building is already there. The dormers almost add to the architecture in my mind. So I support this project.
Stacy?
I have no objections. I agree with the board.
Dave?
Same here. I agree with the comments of the board.
And David, you have my study. So as you all know, the board and me particularly has been working on the neighborhood compatibility study. I sent out a brief copy or a preliminary copy to both Tip and Bill. And what I've done is to add a gross net column in there. And if it's gross, which means it's coming from the county assessor, it reduces it. You can see in the upper left-hand corner, it says gross to net conversion. It reduces that number by 7% in this particular case. That number is variable. We can adjust that as a board, but I think that's about right. And then going down to the next sheet. So this is what it is. Always on the left in red is the proposed project. On the right in orange is the existing project. And then those are all, the blue lines are the neighborhood. The county assessor shows 3 parcels having 0, which I put in here as 0, and that's how it shows up. But it's still, that's the 65%, 110% is the red line. Of the neighborhood, 65 is the green and the purple is 75. So yeah, it's towards the larger end, but it's certainly, in my opinion, based on this study, it's not out of character. So that's my comment. Jason, I will send a copy of this over to you for your consideration and review. And they have no planner. So obviously they have to go through that whole process. What do we want to do with this when it finally gets through that process, please?
I mean, I think they could come back for final, well, we can't grant them. Can we grant them preliminary final on consent?
When it comes back,
Yeah.
we could, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what's fine.
You want to do that?
Yes.
Okay, so preliminary final on consent when they get done with that. Thank you, Jason. You will not be here before the full board again. Good luck. Good job. Okay, item number 4, 559 San Ysidro Road. Anybody here for that, please?
Yes, that would be me. I'm Jose Gonzalez. I'm the architect of record for the proposal.
And do I correctly understand that this application is basically asking us to approve lit signs? That's the extent of this work?
There's actually 2 improvements to the building. One of it is illuminated signs on the exterior walls of the upper unit. as shown in that image. And there's one monument sign that we're proposing by the sidewalk. And the second application is to do the glass railing as shown in that render, to replace the solid wall railing that is right now.
Okay. So please finish up whatever presentation you want to make here, please.
Yes, so this is a commercial property on San Isidro. It is, in terms of architectural speaking, it has a bit of a modernist vibe. You know, it does, I wouldn't consider this a classic building. It has exposed structure and beams. However, it has this very solid railing on the second floor that is very obtrusive to, to see what's going on the inside. And what we're trying to do is to kind of refresh it, respect the style of the building, but give it a bit more of a warm contemporary vibe in general. We are also working on the TI work going on the second floor as a health consultation business. And the owners are willing to kind of enhance the street front and the quality of the building all around. So this application is to, improve this corner of the building. If you go to the next slide, please. This is the way it looks right now, existing. So we're pretty much not changing anything structurally. We're not adding any square footage. We're simply trying to just cosmetically improve the quality of the building. A lot of it will have to do with landscape and landscape conditions. But the biggest architectural feature we're changing is the railing, as you can tell. That is like almost like 5-foot solid wall railing on the second floor. And then the type of a storefront going from white framing. If you go to the next slide, please. Going from the white wooden framed storefront type to the frameless glass storefront type. The plan will be to, for now, approve the second story unit that we're working on. And continuously, as tenants keep switching, we'll continue to change the storefronts of every tenant to that style. But for now, we want to start with this, kind of, which is the most visible storefront from the street, this second floor. And here you can see like the glass railing that is not all the way. We're stopping it before the stairs on the bottom left. You can see that where the glass railing stops. And then the signage on the building is those on the second floor attached to the walls. One large sign on the right and one smaller sign on the left of the same building. So that's the scope on the architectural improvement of the building. And then we do have a monument sign on the sidewalk that if you go to the next slide, okay, these are the architectural drawings showing the improvement locations and scope of work. We do have actually on the rear of the building a few windows that we don't need and we would like to block. They're facing the parking lot in the back. It's an alley. There's no street front or visual. That will be on the bottom right of this slide. And I think that's the last page, correct? Yeah, well, and that will be the proposed version. And in terms of how do we plan to update those storefronts, there is a plan of the existing storefronts showing how we plan to remove them. The one on the bottom, we are like facing west. We're trying to extend it to bring more natural light to the space. So we're adding 6 foot of storefront. So on the left, you can see the proposed version being 17 foot long versus, I think it's 11 right now. And so that's it. Now the monument sign, it's not on this PDF, it's on the other PDF. Do you have that available? That one, yeah. So this is the exact same renders and project. The signage as described on the previous proposal, it goes on the second floor on the exterior walls. And the monument sign is that on the lower right slide. We tried to make it very discreet, contemporary in a sense, but just respectful to height and everything. We added a concrete base that will carry the street number, and then above that we'll do this like powder coat, like high quality metal box that will have illumination from the inside, and then we'll do punch through acrylic lettering. So it's going to be very elegant, and it will, have a good quality to it. And at the same time, it won't throw a lot of light because it's only the letters that are actually glowing. Next page. The actual location of the second floor signs is there. Next page. And overall dimensions, yeah, we're talking about the biggest sign upstairs is 7 foot long by about 17 inches. Oh, actually, that dimension is off. And then the small sign is about 18 inches by 24 inches. And the big monument sign altogether, including the capacity to host up to 5 tenant signage, is 9 foot long by 3 foot 8 inches high. And that's it.
Questions, Bill?
On the guardrail, glass guardrail, do you know if they're going to be okay with just on a commercial application, just glass edge and not having a top continuous rail? I know I've run into that before with the code. And
Yes.
if you do need a continuous material, what would that be?
That's a very good question. I've been exposed to that. And it kind of changes interpretation, but when we had that issue before, they asked us to include a cap, a continuous aluminum cap, typically round, that just inserts into the frameless glass. And so, yeah, it will be a 1.5 inch radius aluminum.
Would that material match something on the property then, or?
Yeah, that light aluminum will match the hardware on the storefront, on the frameless storefront system that, even though it's frameless, it does still have a few metal components like the hinges and the handlebar. So we'll try to use the same. However, I mean, I think we have a chance to make that really slim. So from the distance, it will pretty much look like this.
And then the last question is the monument sign that you have there. What is that metal box? Is that a painted metal? Is that going to be a shiny, a brushed aluminum? What's that? What do you envision for that?
We envision a satin paint finish, and what we do is we do powder coat, so it handles the exterior very well. It won't be glossy. We don't need it to be glossy. But yeah, it won't be matte either because it will catch too much dust. So we'll have to use like a medium finish.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Stacy, questions, please.
No questions.
Dave, questions, please.
My first one's for staff. Is the signage subject to sign ordinance and design review separate from us, or are we the ones that review this?
Dave? Kimberly, do you know?
I'm really hoping Olivia's here. Yes, they have to get a signed certificate of conformance from staff, which acts like a land use permit. And Board of Architecture review, like other types of development, are subject to Board of Architecture review. This particular signage project is subject to your review and approval prior to action on the signed certificate of conformance.
Thank you. So to the applicant, have you looked at the sign ordinance, and does what you're proposing meet the ordinance?
It is our understanding that it does, yes.
What's that? I'm sorry?
Yes.
It does meet this ordinance,
Yes.
including the illumination.
I'm pretty sure it does, yes.
Okay. And do you have elevations of the building where you're proposing to remove all the doors and windows?
Correct. That would be on the other PDF, the architectural elevations. Previous page. That one, yeah. So on the left, that's the overall building elevations. On the tree side that we're doing improvements. And as you can tell, that square box, the dash box, shows the area of that upper unit where we are doing the upgraded storefronts and the glass railing.
And how visible is this elevation to the property and to the adjacent properties?
It is visible from the street and from the adjacent property on that side, because that in front of it, there's only a parking lot and there's no fencing or anything like that.
Those are my questions. Thanks.
Yep, questions, please.
So can you explain how are you planning to do the glass railing? Is it vertical support, um, floor support? Is it breaking up every 5 feet, 7 feet? Oh, yeah, what's your intention with that?
Sure. We're gonna use heavy duty CR Lawrence in-ground embedded bracket, which is about a 6-inch solid aluminum piece that goes inside the slab. We have to restructurally like reinforce the entire perimeter of that slab, holding it. And then from there, we're gonna slide our glass in and then refinish the exterior part of that slab so it keeps the same look as it has today. The length of each of the glass panels, it would probably range between 4 feet and 6 feet, which is kind of the standard that we've done before. But it will be seamless. There won't be any framing or any joints other than just like a small gap.
So which lead me to the second question, the building is definitely, I think it's built in the 60s or something. It's with the brown columns, very rough plaster. It's very sort of dated. So how are you planning to modernize the railing with the existing wood columns facing east? And how you're fixing the bottom that right now, the plaster is really all with the map, and how are you planning to redo the whole soffit and clean it up and make it as slick as you can to go with your glass, or you're just going to put the glass rail in and paint the columns and paint the plaster?
Actually, we do have a strategy. That's a very good question because this building is like kind of rustic and all around, and we do have some limitation to our scope. So if you go back to the original slide where you can see the original building, I think it's to that one. So, even though the building is like kind of on the rustic side of things, actual stucco and plaster on the walls is semi-smooth. It's not bad. So our initial approach was to clean up those structural members coming out of it. So we plan to do it by sandblasting the paint. So do a light sandblasting on the structural members coming from the roof out and the columns coming all the way down to the floor, and get back that natural wood color, and then seal it. After that, we'll definitely work on adding like fresh paint to all other existing components. And then as the part of the railing that we need to patch in terms of due to the structural improvements, we're definitely gonna have to try to match a little bit of the semi-roughness of the rest of the building on that small kind of slab side where our frameless glass bracket is going. But I don't think the building is too rough. I think this is gonna be just enough to kind of keep a little bit of the like warmth of the whatever textures are doing, and also the exposing the natural wood of the elements. I think could be kind of interesting combination to nature and the pine trees around it, and it could be a nice blend.
So one of your main ideas to modernize the building is to put a glass rail, and so the question would be, have you looked at other options? Because this is the corner that a lot of traffic and glass railing. I'm not sure that like improving the views from the building, and so have you looked at any other option that modernize the building without using the glass rail?
Yes, of course. Yeah, no, we had an extensive exterior design process to get to this conclusion. If you go to the next slide, maybe we can see a little bit more of the proposal. And I'll tell you a bit more of the reasons why we're going this direction. So second floors in commercial, as we all know, they're very isolated. It's hard to activate them. Typically tenants don't last too long. And if they do, they're not very exciting tenants. So for commercial retail environments, the main thing we propose is transparency. How can we get people to see what's happening inside, to activate in the early evening when some of the lights go on and still business going on? So our options kind of go, like fall into transparency. Now, the only way to achieve transparency is, well, one way is doing glass, and second way is doing metal railing, bars, cable. I mean, there's other options. And we did explore many of them, and somehow this building didn't really take well, like a bunch of lines, like more horizontal lines or vertical or inserts. So we came to the conclusion that, like more transparency and the right balance between frameless glass, wood texture, and a beautiful vegetation landscape could get us to a point where it does feel contemporary, but it's not cold and it's not like out of place. But yeah, to answer your question, we did explore many versions of the railing because, there's other information.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Rob, questions, please.
Let me start with the questions for Kimberly. Does these proposed improvements trigger any, the property looks dated in many ways. Does it trigger any kind of upgrades with the parking, landscape in the parking lot? Site plan improvements. I'm just looking at, there's no, there's parking with no landscaping on the ends and intermediate kind of tree spaces. Is any of that triggered,
They're not
Kimberly?
adding any square footage, correct, as a part of the
Correct.
project?
Okay, so that's
So
what,
there's no, we can't recalculate parking requirements.
okay. That's, so then the questions for the architect. So you mentioned landscaping. So there's opportunities, that if the intent is kind of to create more curb appeal, that landscaping obviously, and even some hardscape kind of improvement seems like, some creative hardscape or paving could kind of add to that. So could you just tell me what you were what you guys were thinking in terms of the landscaping, please?
For sure. Yeah. There is a lot of vegetation there. It's definitely outdated and it's not, it's not placed in a well-designed. So we definitely have to do some upgrades on that. So our vision is to, if we can bring the building to set a bit more of a contemporary statement as we're proposing now, our next stage is going to be how can we make the landscape be improved in that respect so it works together. So we do have the vision of, removing a lot of the inefficient, like, high water, non-tolerant species, try to bring a lot more drought tolerant species. And we're definitely trying to stay within the palette of, olive and, like gray greens, shades, and probably bring in a little bit of the purples and, drought tolerant colors as we're showing in some of these renders. So that's our vision, but this landscape design is not part of this submission.
It is, I'm sorry, it is part of this, you're saying?
It is in concept, it is part of it. I love to make it part of it, but we don't have a specific landscape design proposal yet.
But, and have you considered where possibly removing or creative adjustment of a few of the parking spaces where, you could kind of add paving in a meaningful way that maybe makes, kind of create accent paving or something that creates a greater inviting presence from the perimeter?
Yes, actually, we do think that would be actually great as long as it's feasible and possible. These two renders don't show really the sidewalk.
No.
But there is, I think, a lot of potential on that sidewalk. We have a nice piece of landscape area that we can heavily improve and perhaps include some of that hardscape to make the property a lot more inviting.
Okay,
Right.
I guess I encourage that. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you.
Robert, questions, please.
On the east elevation, where is the handrail? Is it on the building?
Yes, so the way it works, the handrail will begin about 18 inches from the stair. This is only guardrail. And this is a 42-inch glass transparent guardrail. And we will have the handrail at 36 inches high on the right side, like close to that stair.
Have you considered when you redo the soffit having that glass go all the way to the right side and at the same height instead of having that weird angle going down.
Yeah,
just-
that's a good question. Yeah. We actually did consider that option. We visualize it. It well, we ended up using this more rectangular because somehow I felt like we needed that surface to feel right on the right, but it started feeling a little bit too mountain modern when we did that. But we did consider to extend that storefront up in the angle shape so it followed the roof line.
No more questions.
I would have said 1970s. I would have said 1970s, not 60s, but your generation? Yeah, my generation, right? If I were to say that what you've basically done is put lipstick on a pig and haven't really gotten to the soul of the building, what would your comment be about that, please?
Well, I'm a very professional architect, and I'm open to all opinions. I think there's definitely something to consider there. And as part of my professional responsibility to understand all possible outcomes on this project, I do have, like everywhere, we do have limitations in both timing, planning, structural, as well as budget wise. So, after analyzing the property several times and finding, like, as you can imagine, like hundreds and hundreds of items that I would like to upgrade, this was our conclusion of like, what does it really need to happen to make this building do a first good pass on how to improve this building and show the potential of this type of structure. So maybe in the future, we can upgrade a few more things. So it becomes a lot more cohesive proposal. But so on a personal level, on coffee shop level, I agree with you. But I think there's always a process.
Are you familiar with the commercial buildings directly to the south of you? You may have to skip over the water district. I can't remember exactly which building you are, but that have different kinds of facade material rather than 1960s or 70s cement plaster on it, that have more texture to it. Are you familiar with those buildings, please? That's the question.
Yes, I am. We studied the buildings, the 2 or 3 commercial developments that happen, within 6 or 8 properties. I noticed very different, approaches to it. The one more of a country farm, Main Street vibe, with the different sidings and different colors. So yeah, I am familiar with all those buildings. I believe our building has a different DNA from conception. I can even imagine the original architect to have a lot more contemporary approach to this particular structure and then toned down by the time or the location. But yeah, I am familiar.
Okay, and then the last thing is, way back when, back in the 70s, I had some, when I was just a cub architect at that time, somebody came into the office and said, color is 60% of someone's initial reaction to something. A person's clothing, a car, a building. Have you explored different color schemes that would alter this building, please?
Yes, we did. Yeah, we did different alter. We actually came with a series of options on how to pursue this improvement to the building. Our finalists, like just for FYI, were actually a proposal that was all dark, more on a charcoal dark top tone, a bit more earthy, more on the darkish side. And the reason why we also pursued that direction is because that was a bit warmer in connection, a bit more connected to nature. It had less contrast with other options. At the end, we decided to go on this lighter tone proposal, very similar to the existing, just to keep more of a day concept. Since we don't really have any restaurants or taverns or anything like that, we couldn't really argue much about, what about these warm, late afternoon, evening activities? But yeah, we did consider several color options for this project.
Public comment, is there anybody that would like to? Yes,
One more question.
yes, thank you.
So, I assume that this building is one owner? One owner owned the whole building?
Correct.
And so by replacing the windows and the doors and the corner, the railing in the corner, how do you think will tie to the rest of the building? Would it be like partially done on one end, and are you going to repaint the whole building and bring it all up, or you going to? So what's your intention?
Well, our intention is actually that's a great question. So we intend to remodel the entire building. We will apply new paint, and it will clean it up all around. We do have control of the whole property, and our intention is to improve all the storefronts on the property. So to bring it up to this standard of like the frameless, higher quality experience. So the final product should be a consistent look and consistent finishes all around. And the same will apply to landscape and to other things. But yes, so we do plan to bring it up to consistency.
So with that, is it going to be? Are you coming in for one project, or going to be a multiple years project, or what's your intention?
So we do have tenants that have different timelines in their leases and stuff like that. But they're all within a couple of years type of conditions. We do intend to as tenants leave, try to improve the space immediately, or during renewal we can actually work that in. And then as we look for new tenants, tenants that have a little bit more of the quality of the building, and try to bring a little more activity. Like right now, the building is super quiet. It's a very monochromatic tenant type. And we're adjacent to these other very dynamic, active retail properties that we actually have physical connection with. So we're trying to connect with them and become a lot more, active, dynamic, energetic place.
Public comment, is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 4, 559 San Ysidro Road, please?
No requests.
Okay, so we are on today for concept. They do have a planner. Comments, Bill?
Yeah, it's kind of a tricky one as you've been struggling. I think we all sort of look at this building and you're sort of establishing the palette for maybe the future of this building, which is fine. I mean, I think it's acceptable as far as I see it, the storefront glass, although my tendency would be to maybe give it a little more charm instead of making it too contemporary and slick. I'm not saying I'm opposed to this, but I'm saying, what if those were steel sash doors and they had, divided into thirds, and maybe the railing was more of a horizontal iron or something. I'm just saying, the opportunity now to sort of look at the whole building and figure out what you're going to do, and maybe you've done that already too, might be the way you look at it instead of just adding the little bits that you are. I can accept this as it is. So I'm just throwing that idea out there. So anyway, that's all I have. Thanks.
Stacy, comments, please.
I think it's a rather modest proposal and a first stage attempt. I really have no objections to it. The comment, lipstick on a pig, I mean, at least he's kind of selecting a decent shade.
Only a woman could say that. Is that it? Dave, please.
Yeah, I like this project, and I feel like it's more than lipstick on a pig. To my mind, you're embracing what the building is, and its original intent and you're refining it, but you're not trying to make it look like the other development down the road that's farmhouse or uh, other things. I mean, I think this is a really honest approach, and the more I look at it, the more I think it's appropriate. I think what really saves it for me is bringing the wood elements back to natural wood, and then just cleaning up the fenestration. And if you could do that to the entire project, I think this is very appropriate for what it is, short of tearing it down or totally trying to remake it. So my main concern would be the signage and the lighting of that signage, and it doesn't feel appropriate to Montecito to me. So I'd ask that you reconsider that and make sure that you are fine, following this sign ordinance. And I'm going to look at the sign ordinance before the next go around. But overall, I think it's a good project, and I think it's a nice facelift to this building, and it's honest, and I like it.
Yep.
You know, well, I think that it could be something great happening to this building, but I'm still struggling with the issue that this is the one building you can see clearly from San Isidro. It's not like you only see one wing and don't see the other. And whatever you do to the end, I think you really have to tie to the rest of the building. And so to me, I think that's a very important consideration on how to you renovate this project. And I really don't think you can do it piecemeal. One end this way, then wait who knows how many years before you can do to the rest of the space. So that's really a problem for me to approve it this way. And secondly, I don't mind the glass rail if it works for the whole building, but um, I'm not sure this is the right application for the glass rail. I mean, it's sometimes you do glass rail to improve the views. You try to really modernize the building. However, the building has so many elements with a plaster canopy and how it is, and the glass rail is such a clean, smooth surface, and I think it's going to clash with even with the roofing you have now. All of that, still retain the design. Let's say the 70s, not the 60s, and because of that, I just feel that if you're doing this half right now, what you're doing will make the rest of the building look like it's doesn't belong there. And so that's where I am with the project.
Rob, comments?
I guess I'm leaning more towards some of the lipstick on the pig and some of the things that Tip said is, I think, that would be at this point, at least encourage you to maybe get a landscape architect on board, and then so that you look at this site and the building comprehensively, and then kind of see if you can carve out places where you can create, whether it's hardscape and landscape improvements that kind of collectively all the little pieces add up to maybe making something a lot better. I understand that, that's, not wanting to open up some of that. And I'm not even sure, like, do you have ADA, let me ask you this, do you have ADA access on the second floor at this point, or is that?
No, there's no elevator. No, this building has no elevator. It's just commercial office, commercial space for both floors.
So there's nothing that's triggering having required ADA access then is what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. So I understand, like, you're walking a tightrope on some of that stuff, but I guess all I'm doing is I guess I would encourage you to maybe get a landscape architect and then together try to be, but I think you could be a little more creative with some of it. But by the same token, if this is where you want to take it, then I would support it. So thank you.
Robert?
I am concerned because it is so visible from San Ysidro Road. you really can't do the other half of the building like this half because that low tile roof over the first floor, I mean, your glass railing would only be like a foot tall. So it's a tough one. The east elevation is important, but somehow the conversion to glass rail makes those columns look so spindly. I wonder if maybe you'd ever thought about wrapping them to beef them up or something like that. And Bill's comment about having to have a cap on the glass would help that spindliness if it ran, you know, between all three columns. So it's a little bit frail looking to me with those thin columns. And again, the other half is almost a different building, so I don't know how we would even go there. So I understand what you're doing, and I, in general, like the project. That's it.
About the lit signage, I believe also that they're not permitted in Montecito. And even if they are, I'm not going to vote for them. I don't want to draw attention to something like that. We're trying to keep the lighting way down. The problem with architecture, unlike dresses and automobiles and things like that, is it tends to last a really, really long time. And if this gets approved, I think I can say that well over 95% of the projects that come through this board, I think were vastly improved, maybe 99% by the time we got done with this project, this process. But this is a half step to me, and you haven't solved the issue about underlying beauty. This thing is not beautiful. This is a change of a rail, so it looks more contemporary, but it's, you know, that building with the gable end and the three columns going up to the beams. I mean, it's got, that's the character of this building. That's the soul of this building. Like it or not, that's what this building originally was designed to do for, and how they brought that into the world. And it's still there. So we've got a building back in 60 or 70, which is not changing enough in my mind to make this a beautiful building. I don't think that the existing one is beautiful. I think it's acceptable, but I don't think it's beautiful. And it seems to me that if we realize that for the next 50 to 60 years, 70 years, strong likelihood I won't be there then, but you know, is that a legacy that I would want to bring on to the rest of the community? So if it's anywhere near this, I'm going to vote against this project. And I would just ask you to go back and look at materials. That might be the way to solve it. But it's, to me, it's not good enough at this point. Yep.
Also, you know, I want to add something to, I just remember that of all the buildings in Montecito, we have on Upper Village and the Lower Village, all the buildings, every time, even in, you know, like in our building, which is a city of Santa Barbara, but it's considered Montecito. We usually come in with a whole project, look at the building. You cannot just look at one corner and then come back a couple of years to do the other half. So at least you come back with the whole plan of how you bring the building up, and especially this building that is a very visible building on Upper Village. It can be seen from anywhere. And because of that, landscaping, I think is important. And, you know, so, and you might want to do something now to open the business. I don't think the glass rail will change the look of the business or anything like that, because it had nothing to do with views here. It's just you want to modernize the building, which is great, and we really take a look at the whole project if you can. And I like some of the element. It's not say that's not good, but it's not complete.
John, I had one more comment.
Yes, please, Dave. Go.
The elevation where you're removing all the windows and doors, if you could provide a rendering similar to these, so we can see how it relates to the rest of the building and to the context. I'm just concerned of having a blank 2-story plaster wall.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Item number 5, Steve, I see you out there.
So further concept on that one.
Further concept. Okay, so let me read the existing the comments. Okay, restudy restaurant entranceway and door. Restudy hardscape and landscape along street frontage and entrances. Consider upgrading and augmenting landscape and hardscape to differentiate entrances and enhance modern architectural style. One member suggested restudying the proportions of the light fixture to the pilaster. Consider reducing number of layers. One member suggested restudying skylight and options to address interior noise concerns. Restudy awning shape and adding embellishments, lighting, landscaping. One member recommended repeating light fixtures along street frontage. No action taken. So Barry, Steve, whomever, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Steve Welton from Steps Lanches Consulting with Will Lopez and Barry Winnick from Winnick Architects. Since our last meeting with you, we took some of your comments to heart, revised the project, brought it to HLAC, Historic Landmarks Advisory Commission, who subsequently approved the projects. We're bringing in the design that they approved to you. As a reminder, we're currently going through a substantial conformity determination process with county staff. So that's a staff level review. Staff's ready to approve this pending your review. Prior to that, we took this project to the Montecito Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors to allow for the public to use this portion of the club, and there were some conditions of approval from the project at that time. I just wanted to go back real quickly to some of the conditions of the project that were approved initially for the Coral Casino and by HLAC, and they were regards to the access to the restaurant, and they talked about the scope, magnitude, the size of that building, of that entry, I should say, and the goal for HLAC at that time was to make it subordinate, and then it was very clear in the conditions. So Barry has taken an attempt from what you saw initially, your comments, and then still tried to blend that in with what the HLAC wanted. I think hopefully what you see today is meets what you want as well as what HLAC does. So I'll hand it to Barry at this point.
Steve, thank you. Thank you, Chair and board members. Very pleased to be back in front of you presenting this project. As Steve mentioned, we had gone back and taken your, I'd like to call it an invitation to study design, particularly the entrance. We did do that. The other things that we're going to discuss today, of course, is the Pacifica Ballroom entrance gates and lights, where we also took in your comments, as well as the weatherization of the courtyard at the restaurant level for year-round use. So your suggestions, we were fortunate to have time to review them, study them in-house. We presented them to our historians, Pam Post and Tim Hazelton, in order to get their, basically support, and we're able to present that to the HLAC, as Steve mentioned, where we got resounding approval. So your suggestions helped us push the envelope a bit with them, so we were able to incorporate them. So if we go to the next page, this is the arrow. And then just making sure everybody knows where we are. And yeah, I just wanted to mention, just, you guys hopefully saw recently, was it not close? You may have recently seen this publication, Santa Barbara Magazine. And I just pointed out, just to give the sense of the kind of care that the ownership has for this property. And I think it was really well documented in that magazine article. This aerial gives you a sense of that. Let's go to the next slide. So this is.
Barry, can you go right to what you did?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, here we are. In fact, we reordered the presentation, so everything existing conditions is at the end. So here we are at Channel Drive, and you'll see the historic entrance is at the left-hand side of the page, and where the letter A is where on the oblique you see the entrance to the restaurant. And this has been revised based on the design to go to a pair of doors. We've omitted the previous canopy option, which was a fabric awning, and have replaced that with a fixed Art Moderne inspired canopy that projects out 4'6" from the building. And we've flanked it with two wall sconces. So if we go to the next page. So at the very bottom left, you'll see the inspiration for the Art Moderne canopy, and that has bands of stainless steel that wrap it. It's about 8 inches tall, and sitting on top of it are the lettering. And we're doing the same thing. We'll be backlighting our lettering. The image just to the left of that is the wall sconce image that we're using. It's a bespoke wall sconce that will be built for the project. It is, of course, shielded, and it'll be 2700 K for the color temperature, which is a nice warm color temperature. To the right of that is the same image that we shared with you last time of the entrance door. So the suggestion of going to a pair of doors is what we've now been able to incorporate and present, and you'll see that in that elevation just above that image is the second image from the left in the middle. And that shows the doors are now 6'8" wide, 8'2" tall, and then just above it you can see that canopy that's projecting out with the lettering sitting on top, and the two chrome wall sconces on either side flanking it. And then if you go to the next page, oh, I'm sorry, if you stay there, I just wanted, looking at the upper right colored rendering, I think is the best. And I don't know if you're able to enlarge these or not, but focusing on that really gives you a good sense of how this has turned out. And this is no longer looking at the oblique, it's looking straight on. So that's a rendered elevation of our proposal, incorporating what we hope, what you were hoping to see. So now we can go to the next page. Thanks for doing the zooming. So now we're at the La Pacifica entrance. The entrance gates are the same as what we proposed last time. We've now taken the lights and taken one tier off the top of the lights in order to improve the proportion, again, based on the recommendations that you made. And those lights also are bespoke. They're a frosted glass so that, again, they'll be illuminated. The lamps are shielded inside, and they'll also be at 2700 K on their color temperature. Next item. And so this is, we made a change here for the restaurant courtyard infill. We decided to migrate away from a skylight and instead to do a stepped ceiling at the interior. So if you see in the top elevation, which is the west elevation, item C, that is the area where the roof is, which is right behind the roof deck, sunbathing deck balustrade. So that's the area. And then if you go back out so you can see the lower portion of the page, you'll see the section that goes through it that shows a person at the beach looking up at it with a sightline study. And you can see from the canopy, and by the way, the fabric canopies, which is item D, are fixed. And so there is no visibility of this added element at the roof that's behind those balustrades as it's set way back. And if we go to the next page, this then shows the detail of that section where you can see the stepped ceiling at the interior, which is beneath that roof. This affords what we think will improve the acoustic environment inside the restaurant. And also it gives privacy for the members at the roof deck so that they're not looking in or having people look out at them through the skylight. And then our next. And this is the fabric awning that is that fixed awning I was just speaking about a moment ago. It's based on the original fabric design at the rest of the Coral Casino, same striping pattern, but in this case, a more neutral palette to distinguish the restaurant from the rest.
And where is that?
That's around, if you want to go back one slide. That's in that section just above where it says D. That's running around the entire perimeter where there's outdoor seating at the restaurant.
Very good, thank you.
Great. And then if we go to the next. So, you know, and then this really is, I mean, you can go to the next page. This is a little reminder of the elegance of the past with the Hal Boucher photographs. So, you know, our proposal here really is the enhanced entrance, the La Pacifica Ballroom and Terrace with making it, you know, just enhanced as well with the Art Moderne, which is really the theme we're going with. We're trying to enhance the Art Moderne aspect of the building. And you see the new fabric awnings. You know, the historians found our proposals to be proportionate, and this is really important. You know, we had to give them the square footage when we met with the historians that we were affecting literally 33 square feet, I'm sorry, square inches, no, square feet, get it right, at the door. That they wanted to minimize the amount of impact that we would have on a character defining element of the building that, you know, is fabric that's existing, consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards. And we got great approvals. So anyway, I'm hopeful that you can give our project approval as well. And in fact, which I think is in the minutes, we're seeking preliminary and final approval today.
Yeah, that's right. Just the last point is I think there were some comments in the initial part that talked about the hardscape and landscaping, and that is something that we want to address, but in the future as a comprehensive approach to the Coral Casino, not just for this entry. It's something that is the owner is interested in doing, but a lot of the landscaping is actually in the right of way. A lot of the hardscape is, and so that is something that we'll be studying further and coming back with, but not part of this project.
So you're done.
Yes. Yes.
Questions, Chip?
Um,
Let's not look at yesterday, let's look at tomorrow. Move up, do
Might go
other
back to
page
the
besides this.
third page.
Can we go back, can you go back to
Here you go.
the front? Not next one.
Next one down, Dave, please. David.
Okay, can you zoom into the upper right, David?
Letter A.
Okay, so I have, just make sure we understand the project clearly. So the new doors, you said 6'8", is it 6 feet 8
6'8" width.
or both?
No, it's the pair of doors is 6'8".
6'8", so 3, 4.
2, 3, 4 doors. Correct.
And the height you said is 8 feet,
8'2".
8'2". And how is it compared to the height of the main entrance to the coral? Do you know?
Interestingly, the main entrance doors are 3 foot by 7.
The
each.
overall glass.
Well, the whole thing of glass is more like 10,
Yeah.
but the doors themselves are 3 by 7.
And then I see that there's you're putting the sign right in front of the pair of doors. Does it say Coral Casino?
Right, yeah, that's the name for the time being. It's actually on the canopy, so it's above the doors, and that canopy projects out 4'6" from the face of the building.
You have it shown with numbers, go down, please, or maybe it's on this page. Maybe it's on this page.
Right, Webb.
Well, the numbers were, that was an example. If you go to the
Exactly.
bottom left.
Bottom left. See
Right.
those numbers there, Chip?
Yeah,
That's what, they're emulating that.
yeah, but it will be a name of something, or it will be.
Yeah, that's a placeholder. I don't know the name of the
Or
restaurant at this
It will be a
time.
name of the restaurant, or whatever that would be.
Right, so I mean, I could have put restaurant name,
Right.
but I put Coral Casino.
Or Winnick Design.
No, it definitely won't say that.
And,
Might say Thomas Keller, no, but you know.
and then the overhang is the same as number 1. Go up a little bit. David, can you go down? Go up, go down. Yeah.
Right, that's the,
To the left.
Back where you
Yep,
were.
that's it. Is the overhang the same details like a plaster, a concrete canopy?
right, so it would be, basically it's that idea. I mean, I think it's probably painted wood rather than plaster, and it would have metal edge banding, the way that is shown there. The reason why I say probably wood, because Coral Casino, that whole facade is wood.
It's wood.
Correct. So it'd probably be painted wood with a metal banded edge. Not unlike if you look at the element that's at fins inside currently, that's a painted metal, but it's a white painted metal to look like white painted wood.
Because most,
with metal
most
edge.
of the mid-century building that time, the canopy is concrete, painted concrete. That's why when I saw that picture, I thought that's what you.
I mean, I would kind of wish the Coral Casino was painted concrete as well, but I think it was built to emulate painted concrete, but it's actually a wood construction.
And then let's talk about the light. The two light that you're proposing, I assume that it's a cone shape.
Mhm.
Where do you see that in the building? Because I haven't seen it, but maybe you've seen it someplace.
No, actually, it's deliberately not in the building. So if you were to look at the Channel Drive elevation on the page, well, actually, you can see it in this elevation here, the one that says front elevation. The existing, that's fine. I'm sorry, the front elevation on that side. Or if you want to look at the top left photo, that's fine. The existing wall sconces are recessed into the
Yeah,
building.
but they are vertically.
They're vertical and they're glass and they're recessed.
Exactly.
And so when we were doing this, actually in consultation with historians, again, they really did ask that they, one, don't be recessed into the building because that would obstruct or interfere with more of the building fabric. Two, they liked the idea that they would be distinct from things that you found in the building. Number three, they did like that they also are Art Moderne inspired. And we also thought it made sense that the restaurant would have an element that's different than the rest of the building, though in the same language. So that's the thinking behind it.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Bill, questions, please.
What is the color of the pilaster light fixtures? Is that bronze? I mean, that's what the example shows. Are you going to do more of a brushed stainless or what's?
The intention actually is more of a white. I'm sorry that the example image is the bronze. The intention is to be more of a white paint, like just like the metal of the gates are.
And will that banding though that you have over the door, that's going to be what's that material?
That we've shown as a stainless, more like the canopy that's currently at fins.
Okay.
Mhm.
You wouldn't consider doing the lights in a stainless then, huh?
If you guys gave us latitude, I'm sure we'd be happy to study it, but
Yeah.
Our initial thinking was the existing lights were white and we were keeping them white, but
Oh, all right.
I'm certainly like, if that were as the comment, I'd certainly consider it.
Yeah.
It's part of the vocabulary. I mean, in fact, all the hardware on the doors throughout the building, they're a polished chrome.
Okay, thank you.
Robert, questions, please.
Why does this look like siding on the front elevation? It is, but on your rendering, it doesn't look like siding.
Yeah, I can tell you that the elevation is an AutoCAD drawing that's over enhanced it. The building is siding, but
Okay.
the rendering's a better rendition. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can barely see it, but the building is all siding.
Where is the parking now?
Currently, they're parking, in fact, the parking you see in front of the building actually is city parking or I guess, what do you call Santa Barbara? County public parking. The actual parking is the same as it's always been, and it's over just off of Hill Road. There's designated parking for Coral Casino, and that's remaining the same.
And then this part in the middle is the valet.
The valet is on the east side. There's a little roundabout right there, just on the east side of the Coral Casino. Sorry, west side.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay. No more questions.
Rob, questions, please.
So you had mentioned that you had some hardscape, landscape concepts that you have yet to explore, or you're gonna explore, or what was the gist to that, please?
Yeah, I mean, we're given the timing on the project and the fact that any hardscape that we would do would cause a road encroachment, would have to be studied by our engineers and everything else. It doesn't fit the timeline of this. Basically, it's a TI project. So it's something that we would come back to. And I think that's why I showed you this magazine, is to give you a reminder of the kind of commitment this ownership has had, and that this is something they're interested in as well, and something they further study. But we're not incorporating as part of this project.
So from my standpoint, I guess what would help me would be that you would at least take a stab at designing that so that, because it seems like where you ultimately may go should go hand in hand with architecturally what you're trying to improve upon. And so that at least trying to take a stab at it, even if you don't do that now because of all those restrictions that you mentioned, I guess from my standpoint, it'd be nice to see what you're thinking on that, so that at least I feel comfortable that it's kind of done as a comprehensive solution, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
That sounds more like a comment. Stacy, questions, please.
In terms of the sign over the restaurant entrance, is that the final scale? And when you say backlit, do you mean like a neon backlighting?
Definitely not neon, although that was joked about at Historic Landmarks. Uh, One of the members there was an advocate for it, but
Uh-huh.
that would have lost the vote. No, it's, first of all, the size, we'll make sure that it'll comply with the size, sign ordinance. We're not actually, saying that this is the signage today. I was trying to give an example of how the signage would integrate into the canopy. The actual sign will be studied later, and it will not have, neon lighting.
And that will be brought to you separately as well, just so you know.
No further.
Dave, questions, please.
Did you study different heights for that restaurant entry, the canopy and the doors, or is there a constraint there from width inside?
There is a constraint at the inside, and we did study it along the way with like essentially spandrel panels above the top of it. I'll say that it wasn't terribly successful. The historians were not at all in favor of it. And I have to say, I didn't really love it either. We also tried this with side lights too. If you remember, our original scheme had a single large door with side lights, and we tried this with side lights as well, and the scales again became overpowering. And wasn't in proportion with the main entrance. So we basically had 4 studies that we did, and this is the one that received the support of the historians.
What are you doing about signage to the Coral Casino Private Club? There's never been any signage on this building, to the best of my knowledge. I'm not aware of it. And in the photographs, there's nothing at the main entrance to the private club. But all of a sudden, there's this little tiny thing that's got a big, huge sign. Have you thought about that?
Well, I'm happy to answer it. The signage for the club is actually on the doors. The doors that, in that opening that one of the members asked me about before, it says Coral Casino Pool and Cabana Club on those in a kind of a coral colored script writing. So there is signage there.
And why didn't you adopt that as a thought for this? To tone it down so it's not as predominant and out of character, please?
Well, quite honestly, unless I heard everything wrong during our last meeting, I thought we were encouraged to make the restaurant more prominent and identifiable. So I quite honestly thought that I was following what we were encouraged to do, and I'm pretty happy with what we've proposed. I think it looks rather nice, and I think given the scale of that entrance still, where it's off on the oblique, that when you drive up, you see the main entrance anyway, and you're looking through the pool and the ocean, I don't think there's going to be any confusion about what's the most prominent. So anyway, hopefully you guys will see that as well.
Public comment, is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 5, 1281 Channel Drive, please?
No requests.
Okay, we are on for concept, preliminary, and final. It doesn't mean they necessarily can receive it all, but they have, from a Brown Act agendized point of view, they have the right to get it. Tip, comments, please.
Can you go back to the perspective? Yeah, can you zoom into that one, up with you? Yeah, so definitely, I think this is a much better entrance than what you proposed the last time, and I think that'll probably be nice. And the more I look at this building, which, as you know, it was built in the 30s by Garner Daly, and all the buildings, especially that period, everything tend to be big because there was no height limitation. That's why you have a tower that would never get approved in today's environment. Same as you have a front door to the club that obviously much bigger than what would have been done in today's. And I was thinking that, if there was a secondary function to the building when it was designed 1937, I'm sure that the second entrance probably will be quite grand. Just knowing how you cannot, really predict what would have been done, but you can see that with what has been done, it probably will be an entrance that will clearly define that, well, this is the restaurant, this is the club. So even though, I like this proposal, I think it's nice, but when I look at the picture on the left, I always feel that it should be something that, doesn't have to be ornate, but could go with, because that elevation is actually, it's a leftover the way I see it. It's very plain. It's a base with a beautiful light towers. And it just, maybe we ran out of money, who knows? But it seemed like it's not really anything. That's almost like they halfway done and they stop. It's remind me of, the Peggy Guggenheim Museum in Venice. She built one floor and then stopped. And then all the architects tried to add on to it and see what it looked like, if it was completely built out the way it should be. But that's beside, what I'm trying to get here. So, I think that this could do it. The sconces, I'm not sure I like it. I think could be something else will go better with the building. The signage, yeah, as you say that, the only signage to the club now is on the doors. It's very discreet. And in a way, since that's the only entrance, that's fine. But now this will be a public restaurant, so, I don't mind the sign. I think that's beautiful. I think let's go with the period of the building and maybe, you need the sign that big so to keep the people away from the front door. So that, so overall, I think that it works but except with the two sconces. Thank you.
Bill, comments, please.
Mr. Chair.
And I appreciate your effort and I like what you've done. I actually like the position of the sign. And I think it adds to the architectural style, frankly. I think, yeah, I mean, I would rethink the materials as you talked about for the light fixtures, not a requirement, but I kind of like that little hint of that, whether it's polished or shiny chrome or brushed or whatever that is, sort of scattered around the property. I think it could be appropriate. The light fixtures, I'm okay with them. I mean, I think if you came back in with something else, we could look at that. I don't know. Do we need more details though to be able to give this final approval? We don't have any
Yeah, I don't know
awning
that it's ready
details.
For final, it's close, but it's
So-
ready for prelim, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I could see giving it that. And then if you come back for details, you only have a few minimal amount, the awning detail and
Details
maybe.
and materials.
yeah,
Well,
materials.
Is it possible that we could get preliminary today and come back on consent for final?
Yeah.
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 And then we could address things like that, the
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's, as
refinements on.
far as I'm concerned anyway, somebody will maybe want to make a motion, but anyway, that's it. Thanks.
Robert.
Mr. Chair, if I could
Yes.
interrupt for just a second, there is a public comment letter in the folder.
Oh,
I just don't want you to forget it.
oh, okay. There is a public comment letter talking about accessibility for this project. Thank you very much. We got to read that. As it turns out, I was at an event yesterday at the Coral, and I took the time to do a site visit. I don't see what they're talking about with the accessibility unless that front entranceway is not 1/8 of an inch to the foot. That's the,
You're absolutely right. The ADA access that's currently in the building was upgraded in 2008 during
Okay.
that project, and it meets current code.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Kimberly. Okay, so Robert,
Is the I missed this presentation last time, but is the second entrance to the restaurant because the restaurant will be open to the public?
Correct. Yes.
Yes.
And yet the big entrance is private only.
Well, private except it also provides other functions for, egress as well as ADA access and what have you. So anything that's code required is still accessible through the main entrance. But this went to Planning Commission, by the way, and was part of their approval process. They did want to have a separate entrance as much as possible for the restaurant.
The siding, well, isn't the building all plaster now?
Oh, wood siding.
It's wood siding. Wow.
With many layers.
Will
of
that be
paint.
like hardy board or something?
No, actually, it'll be, we can't get old growth redwood any longer, but it will be redwood that will be milled to match the thicknesses of the wood that's there currently, for any time that we have to do infill.
Okay.
Comments?
I get it. I'm done.
Stacy?
I like the improvements, especially the secondary entrance, just having more of a permanent feel. And also too, I understand that you really need to draw the public to that door as opposed to the main doors, because it is easy to get confused. I agree with Bill Wolf too. I'd like to see a little bit of like the polished chrome from that era. I wouldn't oppose that. It's not a deal breaker with me. The lights, yeah, they're neither here. I'm not opposed to them on either side of the doors. They're, I don't think they're taking away. I don't think they're giving a lot either, but I would pass them. And I'm curious to see what the name is and how it plays out.
Okay,
And yeah, I support it.
thank you.
Dave, please.
I like the way you've done the entry. I think it's the architecture and the style. My only, as I mentioned in questions, it just seems squat to me relative to the height of the other fenestration adjacent to it, to the entry and to the tower. And to my eye, if you could raise up the height of the doors and the canopy, it would look better. But, basically, and I also like the lights being metal as opposed to painted.
Is that it, Dave? There's actually two parts of this project. There's the B side as well, and we've been all focusing in on the A. Can you pull out, zoom out, please? And I think we all,
Next page.
next
Two
sheet,
pages.
right there. No, up, one sheet. This whole, the light fixtures on number one, which I also like very much. I think I prefer that one better than the diminutive light fixture. I don't know that it's a deal killer either way, but that's a pretty darn nice light fixture. And if that could somehow, a touch of that could happen at the front door as well.
I mean, I wouldn't want to hold up our approval. We'd certainly look at that before.
Well, that would be on final.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So,
agreeable.
But I like what you've done. I think it's an extremely,
Oh, I just was given a good reminder. Yeah, so we really do want to avoid going back to HLC.
and you'd have to do that, do you think?
Yeah, we already have their approval. I forgot about that. So we have to be careful about the
Okay,
changes.
okay, very good. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yes,
Had you specified the finished material too on it
The
or
ones on the
not?
front incidentally are called out as polished chrome, so they're already shiny metal. These, quite honestly, I don't think we specified that in the drawings. So I think we have flexibility on this side. I just think going back and maybe changing the other ones, that drastically could be an issue. But we can see.
the front entrance is really a study in proportion.
Mhm.
I mean, it's sort of bigger, but not too big. And, I think that that's what the lettering is really about. And so I personally prefer the, I can't remember what it's called. It's not the script, it's the regular printing. Whatever that is. which is shown in the,
Example.
rather than the script. But again, I don't think that's a deal killer. But it's really a problem, it's not a problem, but it's a exercise in proportion.
Mhm.
That's what this project is. So anyway, I'm also very much pleased and want to thank you for taking that extra step. In my opinion, this is about 1,000 times better than what you did before.
Thanks for the prodding.
Yeah, so, well, we do many things here. So we are on for preliminary and final. I would not vote for final today, but I would vote for preliminary. I don't know how other people feel, please. Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Final on consent, yeah. Are we good? Okay, who would like to make that motion, please?
One question, the only thing that I didn't comment, so the only,
Oh, I'm sorry, did
that's
I?
all right, the only comment that I had is I think you've done a nice job, is that the lights, I thought the sconces, actually, I agree with Dave's comment about it seemed like proportionally the door could be a little bigger, and I thought the light sconces felt a little diminutive, and maybe it could be just a little bigger too, but other than that, I think you've done a nice job. I go back to, I still would like to, and I won't hold you up on that, but I'm anxious to see what's done with the hardscape and landscape, because I think that needs to be done soon in conjunction with where you're trying to improve this building to really make it all come together. So
Yeah, I think the owner was very excited about that too, those ideas.
I'll move to grant conceptual preliminary approval to return for final on consent.
For a second, please.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great weekend.
Okay. No, let's go. You go. Yeah, this is not a very difficult project coming up. Okay, so we have not seen this project yet, 421 Seaview Road. Adele, I see you here. Is your mic on? I don't think so.
It is now, yes.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Well, if you'd like, we could start on the cover sheet because that has the FAR statistics. So what we're proposing is an addition of 528 net square feet. So the house total will be 1,611 net square feet, which puts us at 77% of the FAR. I'm sure you're familiar with the neighborhood, but we do have a neighborhood aerial if you want to take a look at that. This is on Seaview Road. Seaview Road and Lemon have about the same parcel sizes and same very modest neighborhood for Montecito. Probably go to page number 2. We can just go quickly through the site photos. Site photo number 1 is the adjacent property to the south. Number 2 is 421 Seaview, which is our project. The majority of the development is behind the hedge and cannot be seen from the street. Photo number 3 shows the access drive to an existing garage. It's existing non-conforming single car garage. Photo number 4 shows the adjacent property to the north. Photos number 5 through 7 are the properties that are across the street. Most of the homes in this neighborhood are single story. There are two or a few two-story homes. They happen to be right across the street from this project. Photos 11, 12, and 13 are probably the best to show the side yard property line screening. Property is well screened with fences and dense mature hedging on all 4 property boundaries. Maybe go to page 11. I'm sorry, page number 12. Page number 12 is the existing elevations. This is a single story residence, single story viewed from the street, but there's a significant drop in elevation. So the topography at the west side is greater than 8 feet on the south side and about 3.5 feet on the north. I know you don't like to look at floor plans, but if you can, we'll just go quickly to page 15.
It's not.
Okay, what we're proposing is to construct an internal staircase that brings access from the main level of the residence, which is a single level home. And we're doing an addition of 381 square feet. And what that does is it takes you from the stairs or from the living room at the main level through the stairs to a small lower level at the existing understory and provides access to the rear yard. Sheet number 17, David, those are proposed elevations. So on areas where we are not making any changes to the fenestration, the existing doors and windows will remain. And then that sets the vocabulary. A lot of those we're using existing dimensions of the windows and putting additional windows on the south side to get some light into the rooms at two different orientations. Elevation number 1, you can see it's the east elevation, and there's a small addition and what we're going to do is we're going to mimic the roof line of the existing one-car garage. That will become a formal dining room, and we're proposing to have doors that will fold that will open up to the private front yard. The main ridge of the house does not change. The overall height of the structure doesn't change. And we're hoping that this is something that the board pleases the board and addresses any of the items that we need to secure an approval to move forward.
Are you done then?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Rob Burt, questions, please.
Is the lower level habitable now? I mean,
No, it is not. It's a understory.
so is that where the added square footage comes from in your calc?
Yes, 381 square feet is the new lower level of the home. We're also doing a small addition up to the east of the house that creates a larger dining room area. And again, that will mimic the roof line of the existing garage.
No more questions.
Dave, questions, please.
Are you proposing to match the existing house in with all the finished materials?
Yes.
Rob, you weren't here. We'll get you at the end. Tip, please. No questions. Bill, please.
On this west elevation here, was there a reason why you inset that primary bedroom back in, have the little roof? Is
Yes,
there
that's
a
a
reason
very-
why you didn't pull that out?
Pull that out. That's a very good question.
Yeah.
This has legal non-conforming parking. So we can only add 50% of our existing square footage before we would be made to increase this to a 2-car garage.
Mm,
So it's a very modest addition.
rats. Okay, that's all.
Stacy, questions, please.
Looking at the back elevation, one question is the retaining wall. Is there anything preventing you from pushing it further towards the property line a little bit to open up that facade?
We can definitely study that. What we are trying to do is preserve as much of the existing topography along the property line and then hold that back so that it doesn't affect the drainage to the
Got it. Okay.
west.
Okay. That's it.
Adele, it looks to me like you've got your feet in two different styles here. When I look at number 3 elevation, I see shutters.
Those are shutters. We wanted to add workable shutters because that is a new window to the garage.
Okay. But everything else I see is a more contemporary, type of window, the dining room up there. And then I look down on the bottom and it's a different kind of window. It's got side lights and it's got a main doors that open up. It looks to me like, And then above that, the balcony, we have smaller side lights, not full height side lights. So have you really dug in on the fenestration to try to take that fenestration and make it uniform throughout the entire project?
Yes, so the windows that we've added to the garage and to the new dining room, those
Yep.
windows are identical to the windows at the front entry door. There's a pair of windows that flank the fireplace on elevation number 1. The door at the lower level, the door towards the north, that mimics the door in the kitchen that is on the main level directly above. What we wanted to do on that is make the side lights wider, because right now that's a pair of French doors and the ventilating side lights are very small. So we wanted to give more ventilation to the room at the lower level. So we were pulling from the existing door and window vocabulary that was established in the house. Probably not originally. The house was built in 1963, and looks like there were some replacement doors and windows that were probably installed at a later date. But we were trying to be sensitive to the existing openings and not change the windows if we weren't doing any work in that room.
Public comment. Is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 7? Excuse me, item number 6, 421 Seaview Road, please.
No requests.
Okay,
John, quick question. So just the gist of this is we just filling in the bottom left? Is that what's happening? I'm trying to look at.
and it looks like a fairly important change to the fenestration.
But the bottom was open before, is that what I'm looking?
On,
Under
false
Can you go back to the site photos on sheet number 2? The lower level, there's an existing balcony that's going to be removed. There's that
Okay.
13 and 14. You can see number 15, just the height changes significantly. There's about 8 feet or 9 feet of understory that's like a walk-in from the exterior. It's like a walk-in basement.
So you just pulled you pulled some dirt out, put a retaining wall, and then that's what, okay. That's okay. I understand.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. I asked for public comment and now we are back for comments. We are on concept today only. So Robert, please.
I would try to work on the doors and windows, and it seemed a little bit too much or disorganized. I'm not sure exactly, but other than that, I think it's a pretty good project. No more comments.
Dave, comments, please.
Yeah, I think it's a modest project that doesn't really have any impact on the community or the neighbors that I can see. And I would agree with the comments that have been made. Any way you can refine the fenestration to give it make it a little more coherent would be great.
Is that it? Rob, did you want to make?
Sure, I'm just reacting to the elevation on the left. And so I think the comments made, I agree with those. It seems a little busy and somehow needs to be simplified.
Chip, comments, please.
No further comments.
Bill, comments, please.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it'd be worth trying to readjust your square footage, because that detailing of that balcony with the roof and all of that's going to be really complicated. And to me, it looks like it was a remodel, not like it was original. So, I mean, if there was a way, I'm not holding you to it. I know you're tied with square footage. And then the fenestration, I think.
Yeah, we can certainly study that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Stacy, comments, please.
I think it's a reasonable proposal for, it's a very modest design, and I think I like the front and what's happening and how it's more balanced actually with the dining room and the roof line coming out. In the back, if there's some way to push the wall a little bit more just to open up the facade and just let a little more usable space below, I think it might be a nicer experience when you come out. And then I agree about the fenestrations. They just need to be cleaned up and more uniform.
My guess, I don't know, but my guess is that the dining room with that very thin wall on the left to the right-hand side, we're walking away from any kind of woods shear wall, even a strong wall. And therefore you're into steel, and therefore you're into a lot of money. So, or you could simplify the elevation, so, which will save money in many different ways. But when I look at, on the lower level on elevation 4, we have doors with side lights, then we have doors with side lights to the right of it. Up above in the dining room, we've got 3 opening doors. So, and they are different widths, and so I think if you could think it through a little bit more and try to find that, what is the theme here? What's the sort of the character of the building? I think you'll be better off. But we can't do anything with this here. So what do we want to do with this next, ladies and gentlemen? Consent? Consent, everybody? Yeah. Okay, so we'll not see you here again. We'll see you at the consent calendar. Okay. Thank you, Adele. Okay, item number 7, just in case nobody's not looking, it's 3:22, so we're doing good today. 995 Lilac Drive.
Yeah, hello, Daryl Becker here, Becker Studios representing Reattached LLC. Also here with Derek Eichelberger. This is a project this board has seen a couple of times. We were last here March 7th when we've got conceptual review and referred to Planning Commission for review of the overall project. And we went to Planning Commission, received approval there. We're now back for preliminary approval. The project is essentially a 8-foot fence. It varies in height between 7 and 8 feet along Lilac, and a landscape project. This board referred us to spend some time with Rhodes, which Arcadia Studios spent quite a while with them and coming up with a right-of-way plan and sidewalk and proper landscape plan along the roadway on Lilac and Romero Canyon. And anyway, we're back for preliminary review. If you'd like, I'm happy to take you back through the plans. Sheet 1 is basically just information on the project and location, as well as the color of the fence. We have a stained color on the fence, which is a Benjamin Moore Essex green color. Sheet PDF 2. Go to the second page, shows the vicinity. And our project is the house on the upper left-hand corner. And photo 1, photo 2 are the fence in question. Photos 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are neighboring properties. The next plan, PDF 3, is the site plan. The biggest difference between our early meeting and our last meeting is moving. There's a section of the lower or southerly fence that needed to be pushed back out of the right-of-way. It's a section about 60 feet long that would move closer to the front of the residence. We reviewed that the last time we were here with this board. And then PDF 4 is a planting plan. along the perimeter of the property. You'll note on the westerly side or the upper portion of this planting plan is a pedestrian walkway, which is being required in most of the Montecito community these days. And then the last page is irrigation plan. I'll bump it over to Derek to make presentation regarding the landscape plan and the irrigation plan.
All right. Hello, board. We can leave this plan up because it's actually a little bit more representative as a diagram. One thing that Daryl didn't mention is the requirement to move the fence back was because the previous owner had constructed that fence along Romero out or within the setback. So when the fence was rebuilt, we assumed it was in the correct location, but it was determined through this process that it was not conforming. So that's a big part of what we are doing with the fence. But anyway, Planning Commission has seen this. You guys have seen this drawing, this set of drawings before. The crux of the work was really to conform with the roads. There was no walking path, which you see running along Lilac towards the left hand of the driveways. When we got to the main driveway, the previous owner had constructed a stone cobble revetment that collects drainage from above this property. And so Rhodes asked us to redo that drainage and create a path in that area as well. And all of the planting that we're proposing, which you guys have seen, has to conform to being less than 18 inches tall. And we also have a privet hedge that runs continuously along the perimeter in front of the fence. So you don't actually see the fence hardly at all anymore. So that kind of sums us up.
And the reason you went through all of this is because it's an 8-foot high fence, not a 6-foot high fence. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, just for Stacy. And I don't know, Rob, have you seen this before?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Are you guys done then, please?
Yes.
Okay, questions? Bill, please.
Yeah, so Derek, on this illustration here, the narrow rectangle that's got, well, lighter colors there, is that the hedge that you're talking about that pushes up against the fence? So the fence is
Yes.
on the inside of the house.
Correct. So it ends, this was all a new hedge. It ends close to the driveway. There's a little walkway that comes into the property there.
Yeah.
Then there was an existing hedge between the driveways, which is still in place. And then you can see we had to add a new section towards the right of the drawing. Yeah.
We're really not going to see the fence because of that hedge mostly.
Right.
And then does this include gates and pilasters? Is that all part of this too, or?
But that was already done. We did some improvements previously.
That was permitted already.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's it. Thank you.
Stacy, questions, please.
Hey, Derek, why does the planting have to be 18 inches or lower?
That's just the requirement that the roads has with any of the elements that are within their right of way.
Oh, got it. Okay, that's it.
Rob, questions?
Actually, I thought that with roads, they seem to have their number was 36 inches, not 18 inches. But I guess what I'm wondering is the logic, and you're far along, you're far along on this. So, but the logic of the path and the way it's meandered, because it has the net effect of basically creating a lot of chopped up landscaping and no kind of contiguous, meaningful. When you look at that pathway and the way it meanders, it creates these really like little skinny, tiny, useless pieces, and then a lot of points and acute angles and things like this. That it seems like you had a chance, if it was, maybe the path was to one side, you could have kind of layered the landscape up towards the fence in a really nice way and done a really cool job, but I think you're limited, so.
Question?
Well, there's a couple
Yeah, so
of
my
issues.
question was, why the path meandered like that?
There's a couple of issues. Number one, there's some topographic issues. Number two, there's some oak tree issues. And number three is that the roads does not want the path going against the edge of the street. In fact, if you remember that little skinny path that's running up San Ysidro, which was one of the prototypes for this program, they even have like a 1 foot wide planter between the path and then the back part of that right away. So we were just trying to meet their criteria.
Yes, thank you.
Tip, questions, please.
No question.
And Dave.
No questions.
Okay, and so public comment, is there anybody here that would like to, oh, and I have no questions. Public comment, is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 995 Lilac Drive, please?
No requests.
Okay, so they are on for preliminary today. They're not representing, they're ready for final. Or
We are
maybe
ready
they
for
are,
final.
but
We
they're
are.
not agendized for
It
it.
wasn't agendized.
So comments, please, Bill.
Yeah, I could support this project as submitted, and if they needed final, I could give it that.
No, well, not today.
Can't give
It's
it
not agendized for it. Okay, Stacy, comments, please?
Yeah, I went online and looked at it up and down the streets. It's so nice that Google lets me do that. And I think it's nice. I think the setback and the color of the fence allows all the oak trees to come forward, and it's non-offensive, and I understand the pathways, and I actually like them.
Rob, please, comments.
Yeah, you're too far along and I don't understand, I'm just reacting to what I'm seeing. Because in some cases, the pathway is right up against lilac, so Rhodes is okay with it there, I guess is the question. And I agree with you. I wouldn't want to see a 1 foot wide planter and then the pathway, but I guess the main thing is I understand the oak trees are driving the layout to some degree, so I'm not going to oppose, or I just don't fully understand the direction. So you're far along, so I'm okay with it.
Rob, to answer your question, what happens is that all the drainage from up road comes and either gets dumped into these new drains we built, or at the point where that left driveway is, the water naturally goes into that open trench that you see going from the right of way into their property. It's a lot of water, and so we couldn't move that. That's why the path had to get right next to the street right there, and they allowed that.
Okay, I have nothing else. Yeah, that's fine.
Tip, comments, please.
Yeah, I support this proposal. Thank you.
Dave, comments, please.
Yes, I can support the project as long as our landscape architects are good with the landscaping.
And I said from the first meeting that I was going to vote no on this. I don't want to reward bad behavior, quote unquote, bad behavior. So is there a motion on the floor, please?
I'll move to grant preliminary approval for this project and for them to return for final on consent.
Their second, please.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Nay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right,
Item number-
one more time.
Appreciate it.
Item number 8, we'll see you at some consent calendar. Item number 8. Susan, after their presentation, we will ask questions and then I will ask you to comment, okay? Okay, so, Robert, recused himself on that last item, okay? Pamela, are you here?
I'm Lucia. Mila is here and Katie for landscape. Thank you. Nice to see you all again. Should I just go through the updates from last time?
Yes, please.
Okay. Mila, can I see your sheet on plan numbers? So if we could go to the site plan, which is page 10. Okay, so the primary things we've been working to address were some of the comments on height, which we've worked to adjust a little bit. And then we've been working with Susan, the neighbor to the east, on some of the privacy concerns that she had. So previously we had a courtyard that was facing towards the east, which we eliminated. And we've added a longer site wall, which you can see that runs from kind of the planned north edge on the east side of the property all the way down to where there's like a small kind of outdoor gym area towards the southern part of the property. That is 8 feet tall and it is within the setback, so it's not something that we would need a variance for because it's more than 10 feet away from her property. But we worked together on that solution, met on the property and kind of walked the edge of the property between both of our sites to make sure that it felt like it was providing adequate privacy for her. And so otherwise, minor changes that we had to make in order to remove that courtyard. And since we kind of filled that in, we needed to make some tweaks to make sure we were not over the required FAR. Maybe we could keep going to the floor plans. Keep going. This is demo. Continue. Yeah, here. So previously where the two kind of center bedrooms are on the right, there was an open courtyard and that is no longer. In doing so, we shifted a bedroom that was over by the kitchen previously to this wing of the house. So all of those are high windows, small windows, with the 8-foot privacy wall, giving the privacy that I think Susan is happy with at this point, but she'll speak to that. We did also add to the plans a pergola outside of the living room on the bottom left, which is just open, but we were also able to pull the overhang back at that area, which was sort of where we were getting into maybe the closest to our height maximum based on the slope on the property. If we could go to the elevations on page 21. So here you can see we've pulled everything kind of to the left in that upper left-hand elevation. By pulling the whole project kind of back into the slope, we're even further from the max height than we were previously. And in the elevation on the bottom side, you can see how that site wall really obscures any windows, and we'll just have landscaping between our windows and that site wall. It's a stucco wall. We talked about that with Susan as well. And you can also see the kind of lower trellis outside of the living room in that upper left-hand elevation. And those were the primary architectural changes. Katie, oh, and sorry, and in an added effort to work on the height, we did actually drop all of the top plates. So all of the pitches, everything starts a whole foot lower. So that was another added element to reduce the height. And then I think we could flip to landscape, page 31.
And I'll just quickly go through my sheets. I just took my planting plans further and our hardscape plans. Nothing has changed. This is the tree protection plan. If you want to go to the next sheet, I believe is lighting. Keep going. Lighting is just path lighting, and then we have some wall lights for safety at steps and some step lights as well. Very simplistic. If you go to the next sheet is the back lighting. Go to the next sheet. This is just our irrigation. Keep going. Keep going. Just details for irrigation. Keep going. Here's our hardscape layout plan. All of this is the same as proposed before. You know, it's all called out there. We're doing really nice stone walls, gravel, really rustic feeling that fits within the character of the community. Keep going to the next sheet is the back. We have supporting imagery there as well. Nothing has changed. We've just taken our schedule legend further explaining the materials, which Mila has actually here. Go to the next sheet. Just some details, pretty standard. Keep going till you get to planting. And If you want to just keep going to the last sheet, the next sheet, the next one, this is easier to read. It's basically just images of the different areas. As you enter, there's some really amazing Canary Island palms in the center there that we're keeping in the front, circle entry where the driveway is in the front. So we're just making that feel really water-wise lush with agaves, aloes. So you can kind of see our imagery there. And then the rest of the property is mostly native, really naturalistic, going with a lot of the oaks on site. And as I explained before, we're using ramnus, various types of ramnus and native plants to create privacy along the property lines. And towards the south of the property, we have some veggie beds and citrus trees. Happy to answer any questions. That's all.
So are you done then, please? Okay. Questions, Rob?
What is the paved area across the street? What is it's like a turnaround or parking, or what is that?
Fire turnaround.
Oh, that's part of the fire turnaround?
Mhm.
And then how wide are the, on the stepway that goes in the back by the pool to the lawn? What is the thought there, and how like wide are those steps? They look like they're really long.
Down to the grass area.
Yes.
If you go to our layout plan, but you can also kind of see from the scale. Maybe if you could go to our hardscape layout plan by chance, we have an image there that you can kind of understand. Basically, it's supposed to feel like a long wall as, what was the start?
Can you just go back? It started on 31, so
Maybe 35, just guessing. Go forward. Sorry that you're back too
Right
far.
there. Yeah, that works.
That's our irrigation. If you keep going, one more sheet right there. If you zoom into the images, you can kind of see the idea is to kind of have these long steps that are like a wall. If you just go up a little more, that image, that's the second to the right at the top. So having this varying grass planting, meadow planting that leads you up with these long walls that are actually steps is the vision there.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it? Questions, Robert, please.
No questions.
Yep, questions? No questions. Stacy?
I wasn't here before. Rob, maybe you were here on the earlier reviews. So you know more of the having to do with the fire, and because I know MBAR doesn't usually approve 2 gates.
can I make one comment on that? Is
Yeah.
that a question? Just because that is still part of our property, it's not 2 gates facing a actual street. So that was
It's a
part of-
private road.
It's not even a road. I mean,
It's not, yeah.
our
doesn't-
neighbors actually don't even yet have a formal easement to that, but we're working with them to grant them an easement. So as such, we wanted a little bit of extra privacy, and the fire department didn't need that. They needed the one that was on the top of the sheet, but they greatly preferred being able to get,
Of course.
yeah.
Of course. Okay, no further questions.
Dave, questions, please.
Questions?
Joe?
Dave, can you go to that A2.11 second exterior elevation of that east side?
Elevations start on 21.
It was A2.11 is a sheet. There you go. So I understand that the wall that you've added there is 8 feet from the finished floor, huh? And then to the grade, is the grade the dashed line there?
The existing grade is, yes, where it's cut through.
So is the existing grade not that? So what I'm trying to determine is how tall is that wall on the property line there from the grade? You know what I'm saying? Right at that tallest spot where the end. Yeah, where it starts to step there. I mean, it looks like it's 14 feet or something, is it?
From the existing grade?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Yeah. And I know you're doing that because you're trying to help screen the neighbor. And really what you end up with is a corridor on 2 sides of a wall. Right, you've got hardscape on that side that's only about 4 feet wide to the building, and then on this side of the wall, it's planted, which
It's
you don't
planted.
see.
Right. Well,
You see that? Is she gonna get advantage of that?
well, we're gonna collectively be planting on her side of the wall, and between the wall and our building is about 5 feet. And of course, for the duration of the building, it is sort of just a corridor. It's, it will landscape it nicely for the view from the windows. But on her side, there's already actually quite a bit of nice landscaping there. There's, hedges, and it's pretty lush already. So that will be just a backdrop for her. We kind of discussed that wall being like a backdrop to whatever landscaping we.
I mean, I know you've worked extensively with, her, and we'll hear from her, but
Yep.
was there other options with landscaping you could have done to create the privacy there instead
I
of?
think it's not just sight, it's also sound. So there is some benefit of, any outdoor activity that could be happening by the pool. There's the benefit of, a wall that provides sound protection.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And I have no comments. Susan? So identify yourself, turn on the mic by pushing that. There you go.
There I go. Susan Jansen, just wanted to identify myself, the next door neighbor. Wanted to thank you very much for all of the adjustments you've made. I'm very, very happy with how it's come out. And I'm sure that that corridor that you're speaking of will come up with some mutually lovely landscaping solution. So very happy.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we are on for preliminary today. So comments, Rob, please.
The reason I asked on the long steps is sometimes I find it actually your imagery, your stuff it works. When I see your visualization pictures, sometimes though I just be cautious. Sometimes those steps, I mean, they end up in real life. I mean, they look like they're 12 or 14 feet. They get really long, and then I think somewhere it gets out of scale, out of proportion. But you've done a nice job with everything else, so I completely support your project. Thank you.
Robert, comments, please.
My only comment is the description is demolition of the existing 15 square foot single family dwelling. And then on the next page, it says all but residence and guest house to be demolished. So is this an entirely new home? It looks like it.
Yes, it is. I think when we first were working on it, we thought we might preserve some of the existing structure, but it felt like it was not going to be, cost effective, and it felt a little disingenuous to call it a renovation when we were truly building a new house. So I think that second statement is probably just a relic in the description from the planner.
Okay. Having said that, I like this project. No more.
Tip, comments, please.
Yes, I like the project and I can support it.
Stacy, please.
From what little I know from not having been here previously, it's fine. I like the project. I will support it.
Dave, please.
I want to commend the applicant for really addressing the board's comments and going out of your way to work with the neighbor. I personally miss the courtyard on the side and that, but if this works for everyone, that's great. And I think you're at a good place, and I can definitely support the project.
Bill, comments, please.
Yeah, I commend you for the work you did on the house. I think it looks great. I mean, the only thing I still have a little issue with is that wall because of the height of it, but you've worked that out with the neighbor. That's the deal you come up with. So yeah, that's final. Yeah. John's asking for a color at some point, anyway, and I think landscape is going to be critical there as well. Anyway, other than that, I can support what you got. Thanks.
PDF page 24, please. The roofing material is not called out as matte.
We have a sample.
Doesn't matter, just when, this is not for final today,
Mhm.
but it needs to be matte and very much so for the neighbor. We've had one neighbor that was extremely unhappy with a shiny. There's 3 companies that we know that have that, and we'll look for that. You know, it's steel cases.
Steelscapes is one, yeah.
Steelscapes.
Steelscapes?
One that we.
That's one in there, but we don't promote anything. But if you go to that website, you'll see how matte something really can be.
Okay.
Okay, and I think that this wall that's being discussed, on the lower elevation, lower rendering, there's a wood siding. Wood would be expensive, it wouldn't be maintained, but if the wall could be something like that, or a mottled green, you know, I think that'll just disappear in the background against so that it's gonna be tall, but it's gonna disappear over time, so, as opposed to white, so. Okay, do I have a motion for preliminary, and what do we do with final, please?
I'll make a motion for preliminary approval and to return on final and consent.
Is there a second, please?
I'll second it.
Robert or Robert?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, number 9. David, are you here? David Parker? Number 9? There's a memo that says everything's okay. David, are you muted? I can't hear you.
I'm here. I can barely hear you. I could hear
Okay,
you.
well, my mic was muted for some reason.
Oh, okay. I'm
Just
sorry.
before we get started, it says for prelim and final, you did not receive prelim yet?
We previously presented to you on
Speak
November.
up, please.
We previously presented or were before you on November 2nd, and the project was generally favorably discussed at that time. Since that time, since November 2nd, the clients, because their children are getting older, and they didn't feel they needed to add as much space as they were proposing, have significantly scaled back the project. And so what I'm here to share with you today is the scaled back project, which, and I can easily tell you, if we could jump to sheet A 9.00, which is the 22nd and final sheet in this
Okay,
set.
so David, stop for a second. Please get closer to the mic or turn the volume up thank you. It's hard to hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
It's
Can you hear-
barely.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll shout. I have it turned all the way up, so I don't know what the problem is. But if you look here on this sheet, the top is existing, and the lower images are renderings of the proposed. And just as a word of background for those of you, because this has been a few months, this house, which is at 2561 Sycamore Canyon Road. I'm David Parker, by the way, the preservation architect here representing Surf Dog Ventures, the owner of the property. This residence is a few hundred feet from Sycamore Canyon Road. It's not visible from the road. The proposal is interior renovations to the first floor and a 543-foot addition to the second floor. And if you compare the two images on the left, top and bottom, you basically see the addition on the second floor in the lower image. What you're seeing down below is very much like what you've seen before. What we have added in this image are 4 Mexican fan palms. And then the image on the right, the 2 images on the right, the top is existing, and down below is what we're currently proposing. We were previously proposing something that was similar to this, but larger, that contained an interior staircase. The clients are now suggesting to scale back, and what is proposed here is similar to what we proposed before, which was favorably received, and which echoes a detail on the western elevation of the building. So I can take you through the plans, but these before and after images basically capture what we're proposing.
Before you had a whole series of improvements over by the kitchen. Are those all gone now?
Yes.
So they've been eliminated from the project.
They've been eliminated from the project. The one thing that we are proposing, which would not be visible because of the parapet, is a clear story over the kitchen, but it's lower than the parapet on that side of the building, so you would not be able to see it.
But you're not adding that little dining room space.
No.
Okay, okay. So are you done with your presentation, please?
I think so. I can explain.
Okay, let's try to pick it up in questions. Tip, questions?
Oh, you're not doing it? So you're not doing any work to the driveway, coming down to the garage?
No.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, right. Okay, Bill, questions, please?
No questions.
Dave, questions, please?
Questions?
Robert, please? Robert, questions?
Yeah. What's behind the mirror door on the far right? What room is that?
Door on the far right. You mean in the lower right?
Second floor.
Second floor. In the right-hand image.
No, motor court view.
Oh, motor court view. The far right.
Yeah, a second floor.
Second floor. Oh, that is an office. Mm-hmm. That's his office.
Is that it, Robert?
Yes, that's it.
Rob, questions, please?
Just real quickly, why on you're using the Washingtonian Robustas as kind of formal, and why that palm, I guess, as opposed to either queen palm or date palm or something that.
Yeah, the reason we're proposing those palms, the gardens at this property we're not touching, were designed by the landscape architect Lockwood DeForest, and at the adjoining property, DeForest actually used these palm trees, and which show up in the photographs, and it was based on that we're suggesting these.
Okay, yeah, I mean, you're familiar. Yeah, I know what Lockwood DeForest is, and you're familiar that they tend to. I've used them where they kind of angle and all that, and they tend not to say straight like the way you're showing. That's the reason I asked, I guess. But beautiful project. So,
thank you.
That's it. Questions? Okay, Stacy, questions?
No questions.
And I have no questions. Public comment. Is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 9, 2561 Sycamore Canyon Road, please?
No requests.
Okay, so Kimberly.
Yes, yes.
Or Olivia. Are you on, Olivia? Okay, David.
I am here.
Oh, who's that?
This is Kimberly.
Do you know if this received preliminary before?
I could look that up and get back to you in just a few minutes.
Do you know or not know, please?
I don't know off the top of my head now.
Okay, David, do you know if this received preliminary or not, please?
I'm not sure that it did.
The reason I'm asking, I just want to make sure that we keep the paperwork straight, because it was in my mind that you had gotten preliminary.
Ben, I'm sorry, I don't remember the terminology here. It was, we had previously, because it was a much larger project, we came in with landscape plans and everything. So you may have indeed given it preliminary at that time. I remember that it was suggested that we might go to final at the next year, and then the client decided to scale back.
So.
Okay, so Bill just pointed out something. So it looks like you have not received it, which surprises me.
Okay.
My memory's good, but not perfect. Okay, so we are on for preliminary, and comments. Tip. Yes, Tip. You're the only one named Tip.
Thank you.
In my entire life, you're the only one I know that's named Tip.
Is there another tip in the room?
No, I'm the only one. Thank you. Well, we had no problem before and I don't have problem with the project now. And especially, it's getting much smaller. And the issue we had before was with the driveway coming in and the kitchen area. So I definitely think this is ready for preliminary approval as submitted.
Okay, Bill, please.
Yeah, I could grant it that. I think you have most every detail. The only thing I didn't see was the corbel that you have in that illustration right here underneath those overhangs. I didn't see that detailed in the corbel. I saw it as a tail end on your trellis. So I would say if you're going to be matching that, then I would be fine. I also didn't see the brick detailing that you have around that window, but again, those are pretty minor details I think you'll have to do at some point. But other than that, I can approve it as submitted.
Dave, please.
Yeah, I can approve of this reduced scope project as submitted.
You're good? Okay. Robert, please.
I like even though you can't see it from Sycamore Canyon, I like the more modest, and you went back to the arches. I think you squared them off at some point. And I like the arches. And I can improve this project. I think it's appropriate.
Is that it? Rob, please, comments.
Just FYI, I think in the era of Lockwood DeForest, I believe the choices of palms were the Washingtonia robusta, maybe Folifera, and then date palms. The effect you're trying to create, that kind of soldier-like, if you're trying to have it something that carries for a long time, there are some other palms, Queen, King, there's some other ones that may be more successful over the long haul, but if you want to be historically correct, then probably Lockwood DeForest would have used that, what you're picking. So they're just, as they get taller, they start to curve and they don't stay that soldier-like rhythm that you're showing. But I like your project a lot, so thank you.
Stacy?
I can support it.
David? Parker? David
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Rob has not been a long member on this board, but he has demonstrated to me an incredible knowledge of plant material. Would you be willing to consider other palm trees to be more consistent than the ones you have shown, please?
Yes. Let me speak with the clients, but I think the answer is yes.
Okay. Now, let me ask you the far more difficult question. I know your clients are very private people. Neither Rob, landscape architect, licensed landscape architect, nor Stacy, licensed landscape architect, had the privilege of coming on the property. Would you be able to get that permission for them to enter? Because we were all blown away by the landscape, as you remember. Would that be possible? Would you be willing to ask your clients?
Yes, I would. I could ask the clients. I would like to be there when you come.
No
and-
problem. No problem.
Yeah. Would and maybe since I'm with you now, I would wonder if that might be possible, say on July 25th or something like that. Because I will be
This
there then.
property is remarkable.
I'd love to see it.
Yes, yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, let's tentatively do that. Can you contact everybody through the planner just to like exchange phone numbers or something? Olivia Beers.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for your generosity here. I know your clients are private, but it is a remarkable property. So, and I have no comments about it. Maybe at that time you guys could work out the exact palm.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Okay, so do I get a motion for preliminary and final, please?
Make the motion to grant preliminary and final
And
approval.
I will second that with the applicant to study the palm trees, the 4 palm trees, and review that with the chair prior to the land use. So that gives you a lot, the granting of the land use permit. So that gives you a lot of time maybe to work with Rob and Stacy on site, or if that can't be arranged. So, but let's just make sure that that's right because the property is remarkable. All of those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
John, I'm sorry, I
Okay.
didn't hear the second.
What?
I didn't hear who seconded the motion.
I did with a caveat on the trees.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, David. Thank the client too. It's a very nice project. I think it's better being a little smaller. You're out,
Well-
right?
Use, but I will listen to the meeting.
That's fine. Sit in the back. So Chip is recusing on this. Item number 10, 1278 East Valley Road. Marcos, are you here, please?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we've seen this several times. It looks like you detached the ADU. Is that correct?
That is true.
Okay, and it looks like the FAR has been brought down somewhere. I can't remember, but it was under 110.
It's there, yes.
Okay, so, walk us through the changes, I think.
Yes,
Chip.
if we
Chip.
start with the site plan,
Back of
please.
the room, please.
Actually, go back to the upper one, perfect, there. You can see
Marco,
that-
like everybody else, for some reason, can you speak way up? I think it's us, not you, but could you just please do that? I
Are
don't
you
know,
able to hear me
everybody's
now?
fault.
Insulting David.
I'm insulting David.
Are you able to
Okay,
hear us?
thank you. Please speak up.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay. Here in the site plan, you're able to see the proposed and the existing. And you can see that now the proposed is actually nestled and separated from the existing ADU. Along with the landscape and historical team, we kind of came up with this and try to figure out how to actually put these two entities in the same lot. Discussing it with the historical, we felt that it was best if the ADU stood alone since it was, or it has been there for almost 100 years. And to separate the proposed and make it a totally separate building, and they both would create their own entity. If you could continue going to the floor plan. The next there. Here you can see how it's been separated. Also, there were some portions of the existing that have been taken out due that they were not permitted. And also they were not part of the initial ADU or historical building. And that was one thing when we discussed with the historical, we felt that it was best if we just kept this as its own, and the areas that are being demolished, we would be able to bring in something that is similar to what was there before. And that's what we did. The new floor plan has now been reduced and is now nestled in between some of the trees. So if we were to go back to the side plan, you can see that it is far away enough to where it creates a more of a privacy for the new building. And yet the ADU, the existing building, is the one that would be visible from the street. We've also added a lot of the landscaping, and also we have a pool and a fire pit. We also worked with trying to make the entrance on the site. So now we could go to the site plan, please. Could we go to, there we go. No, the next, this is the survey. So site plan.
What page?
The next one over should be the, because I don't know how you guys have them. Keep going, keep going, keep going. There we go.
Okay, thank you.
So here you're able to see also, one of your comments was to work the site plan to where the entrance was a little more inviting. Katie will be able to explain a little bit further in regards to how we address this. Also, the frontage you wanted to also be reworked, and that was something that was also done with landscaping. So at this point, we could get Katie, I believe she's there, that could present the landscaping portion. Thank you.
Yes, Katie Klein, landscape architect. If you want to go to the landscape sheets, I'll walk through the comments from last time or address them. Go to the next sheet. This is just our tree protection and arborist report. If you keep going, nothing has changed here. This is what was submitted before. Keep going. Lighting, we're just doing simple path lighting here. Go to the next sheet. This is once again just our irrigation, so you can keep going till we get to the our layout plan. Here we go. So the driveway, previously, I think the comment was really about a gate. Having a gate there, it was awkward. So we removed the gate, and now we have we just have a stone entry for the driveway, and then we have that additional parking that's gravel. So we have two entrances now and no gate, and then pillars on either side there to announce it with fencing around the property. And then the front entry was really about the pedestrian entry from the street. And it was originally 3 feet wide, and we've widened it to more like 5, 6, 4 in varying in widths to make it feel more like an entrance. And then the other comment that was in the minutes was the pool equipment. So it's basically in the same spot. It's, if you look at the pool, or it's page south there, south of the pool. If you want to zoom in, it's 5 feet away from the property line minimum. And it really made the most sense to put it there because I can show you the planting, but to the north of the pool, we really wanted to keep that open for planting because there's not a ton of space for planting on the property. So it made the most sense. We're doing a wall around the pool enclosure and then also a water feature there. So it's really, we're tying it into a feature wall essentially, and it's just more hidden and makes the most sense in that corner for us as far as the site plan. And that was the only other comment in the minutes, but I'll keep walking you through our plans just so you can get a feel. We did take them a bit further, and we do have a planting plan now with the plants called out. I can walk you through here. So it's really simplistic. We have a lot of oaks on the property. So we're, for the arborist report, we're mitigating with 3 48-inch box oak trees that are at the back of the property. And then at the front of the property, there's existing large oaks that we're working with an arborist to make sure we're considerate of in construction. So the front of the property is really a lot of native plants around the property lines. We have native rhamnus hedging at the back of the pool. We're doing podocarpus hedging for privacy, and the rest of the property, as you can see from the images, is really a lot of grasses and native plantings. And that's it. Happy to answer any questions.
Marco, are you also complete with your presentation?
Yes.
Questions, Dave?
No questions.
Robert?
I haven't seen this project, so I'm gonna say no questions.
Robert, Rob?
I don't have any questions.
Bill?
Are you trying to tie the existing barn in any way to the main house with materials or color?
No,
Is
and
it-
that's what I've presented, that working with the historical, we felt that it was best not to tie in, to make it dissimilar,
So
to
not even,
enhance the actual historical building.
uh-huh,
Also,
not-
the proposed building is set in the back. It's not visible from the street because we have a lot of the oaks. So therefore, when we discussed with the historical, they felt that if we were to bring in something from the proposed to the existing, he was not keen on those aspects. I'm not sure if you read the historical report.
no, I didn't.
Okay, so
last-
that's where he brings up all of these things. But we worked diligently on trying to make, this, and we felt best to separate it rather than integrate it.
And the last question, I know you probably answered this before, that private driveway, does that go to other houses in the back?
Yes, that is an easement, and
Okay.
it goes, it's a secondary driveway for, if you go back to the site plan, the one that I first
That's
showed,
okay.
you're
That-
able to see that. They use it
That's
more,
okay.
actually, the person that uses it is more for, the landscape person that does the maintenance and so forth. That's how they come in to, do the landscaping for that other residence.
Okay, great, thank you.
Stacy, questions, please?
Can we just zoom in a little bit more, David, to the plan? I want to see where the mitigation oaks are going. I can't quite tell. Can you tell me, Katie?
Yeah, they're on either side of the pool, those trees, two in the back, on page
Those,
north.
those are oaks?
They are.
40-inch box mitigation oaks over the pool?
We really didn't have any other place for them. I'm putting them as close as I can to the property line.
Oh, that also might be a problem with the neighbors. Okay. And you're using, you said, a native rhamnus for screening?
Yes.
Which one?
The alternus.
Oh, that's not native.
Oh,
It's Italian buckthorn?
yeah.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
I actually happen to like it. So, okay, no further questions.
Katie,
Yes.
I have never liked this floor plan. I have felt that the U-shaped wing around that, I don't know what it is, and that's what the question is. Can you describe, there's like, it looks like stepping stones and something that's fire pit. Can you explain that? Is there a way to make that spectacular? Because we get a little tiny, we get a lot of it from the front door. And then you get it down the two hallways and it's like, is that spectacular, please?
I'd like to hope so, but the idea there is to use it as a courtyard. I think at one point we did have a visioning, but it would be concrete pavers with gravel, and then it's really like kind of like a courtyard of planting on either side, and there's windows around it. So when you look out, you're seeing planting from those windows, from the front entry. That's why we did a sunken actually fire pit area there. So you're looking more at a pool and a hedge line at the back. So we wanted to make it feel larger than it is, was the idea.
Would it be more rural, semi-rural, low intensity, residential? Those are the three big phrases in the community plan. Would it be more rural to get rid of the gravel and put in additional landscaping there, please?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. We do have ground covers that I'm hoping will grow in and over the kind of where the pavers are and kind of fill in where the gravel is. The gravel is kind of just to make it feel more expansive. But I'm happy to add more ground cover to make it feel green.
Okay, so rather than asking the applicant, am I right or wrong, lady and gentlemen?
The courtyard is awkward. It almost also too feels like underutilized just by having huge pavers going through the middle of it. It feels like less useful.
So then so the question is, can you make it more romantic, or can you make it more rural, or can you make it more connecting with your heart? You know,
Yeah, the idea is for it to feel as green as possible because there's not a ton of green on the page. So if, we could have, are you asking for more seating or planting? And I
I
understand.
am a licensed architect,
Yeah.
but if you've watched me for more planting, less architecture. Okay?
Right. And that's, the direction. We do need a pathway out there. So,
But it doesn't need to meet ADA. It could be just little stepping stones.
I was gonna
yeah,
say,
and those
stepping
I
stones
think
will
are,
work.
Marcos, yes, please jump in if you want.
Yeah, I think stepping stones would be doable. I mean, I'm sure we could, come up with that on that area.
so what do you mean by that? They are stepping stones?
Large
Like smaller, more
stones.
like
Yeah, so
5-point?
I guess what he's saying is that it's very rectilinear. So if we put more of stones,
Like
stone
a
pavers,
5-point angle more so?
Like you go down to the stone yard and you get
Mhm.
some piece of material and you chip off the edge.
Yeah,
yeah,
Five-sided.
more like a flag.
Five-side, I don't know what the term
Like
is.
a
I'm an
5
architect.
point at yeah, flagstone.
you could use
Okay,
flagstone.
so that's
Yeah,
the end of my
we have the
questions.
idea. Yeah,
Okay, now the next thing I want to talk about is the materials, please.
we can go to the materials.
What page is that, please?
I keep going up.
Is it in the architectural or landscape?
Yeah,
Architectural. Keep going right there.
One other question, just.
Yeah,
Yes.
please.
Are you in high
Here,
fire zone on this house?
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Absolutely. Okay, so you can't have trees within 15 feet canopy to the edge of roof either.
There are existing oaks.
No, on the proposed.
On the proposed oaks.
Yeah, because if they're 40-inch blocks, how big is that canopy already? It's probably at least 14.
Are you familiar with those rules?
Yes, and I believe building will make us do that.
Marco, what's shown
Yes.
here appears to be shiny. Please
Shiny.
make sure that things are, obviously glass is shiny, but any of the metals and things like that.
just the coping would be, but obviously could be matted. So that's not a big deal. If you look at
Okay,
the
but
upper
I
right
don't
hand,
see it called out.
in the drawings, I call out metal coping in the roof plan. But
Yeah, but I
again,
don't see the material called out as matte.
no, that's what I'm saying. If you'd like for it to be matte, I can make it matte.
Yeah,
Currently, obviously, it's not called out, but I'll go ahead and make that as a comment to make it matte. No problem.
yeah, okay, so anybody else before we finish up with questions?
So if you want to make the courtyard more organic, then maybe the fire pit area could be circular is one possibility to consider then, as opposed to square if you're trying to kind of move that courtyard so it meanders more rather than being, I mean, the design actually looks like it's more formal and so, and the fire pit now doesn't really do that because it's not symmetrical as it is now. So maybe maybe it's an opportunity because everything is so squared off. Maybe that's where you get organic with it. To me, it seems like you'd fill that in with house or something. And that courtyard would be better served to being on the inside of the house. But, that's,
Don't even
but-
get me
but
started.
that's, so now it's in Katie's court. So there you go. Anyways, I don't feel that strongly about it. So it's kind of like your thoughts, John, and Katie's the landscape architect. So let her have her.
Okay, so public comment, is there anybody here that would like to address the board on item number 10, 1278 East Valley Road, please?
No requests.
Okay, so we are on for preliminary comments. Dave?
I definitely think that having the garage ADU separate from the house is a great improvement. It resolves one of the significant issues from before. The rest of it, I mean, acknowledge it's a constrained site, but I've always felt that this project has been forced and you're just trying to do so many things with so little space. But because it's single story and you're screening it with landscaping, you have the right to do what you want. I think on this project particularly, all these details you have are very challenging to pull off. So for final approval, I would need to see details on how you're going to do that fascia and all these different material changes. And it's a challenging project to detail, and it needs to be done correctly to pull this off. But I think based on the changes you've made and where you're at now, I can support the project. But yeah, I think you're hearing from the other members on the board, there's a lot of compromises and constraints in this project that are just unfortunate.
Robert, comments, please.
For a 0.2 acre lot, it's a pretty aggressive program. And I'm not wild about the 4 parking spaces right off East Valley Road. I just don't feel we should be looking at the rear ends of cars.
That's existing, right?
That is the
yeah,
existing
but
ADU and it's historical, so we
They
cannot
are.
do much about that.
okay. Well, I didn't see this the last time, but
It's always been there.
okay.
Yeah.
Look at the photos.
No more comments.
Rob, comments, please.
One question, are those oaks in the front, Katie?
Mhm,
I
yes.
mean,
Yeah.
you know, that's another, is just to put the mitigation oaks and kind of cluster them around the other oaks. I mean, do they have to be of that size, of the box size you're doing? Okay. Yeah, you're constrained back there. I think where you picked is fine with me, but I understand there's some challenges. I don't have anything else to add. I think you have some challenges there, and you've done the best you can with what you work with. Although I do like the front walk. I'm glad you kind of beefed that up. So.
Bill, comments.
Yeah, I agree with Dave. I think it's a great move to move that away from the existing barn ADU structure there. That definitely helped. The courtyard is kind of deep, but I'm okay with it. Nobody's really going to see that in the backyard. And it will be details, I think, that'll be important. I mean, I personally would try to tie the
Yes.
modern style into the barn in some fashion with materials or colors, but that's
Good,
just
good.
me.
Can you call me in another 5 minutes? I have an important call on the other line. I should be done.
Anyway,
Actually, 10 minutes if you don't mind.
that's
Is that possible?
all I have to say.
Stacy.
Yeah, it's definitely a difficult site. My biggest concerns are the 3 mitigation oaks being placed so close to those corners on the property lines because it's going to impose more oak tree canopy on the neighbors that they may not be necessarily ready for. So, you know, sometimes you can't like necessarily understand where you have the pool and why you have it there because it's pretty much on center with the courtyard going out. But at the same time, putting oak trees over a pool creates a lot of issues in terms of maintenance. So I'd like to, my comment would be to restudy that, but also to look at it with the fire code. Because I know a 40-inch oak going in is probably going to have a 14 to 16-foot canopy to start with, but it's quickly going to grow. It wants to be 50. But I understand that this is something that they're making you do. I agree with Rob, maybe look at possibly if we could bring the mitigation oaks forward with the other oak trees, if they will allow that, that might help. And to just some of the, you know, proportions of the spaces in the back, the fire pit lounge is huge in relation, but you don't really see that from the road, so I wouldn't put that as a condition. That's it.
I had trouble with this project from the first time I saw it. It's probably just across the line of acceptable, but it's not reached, in my opinion, desirable. So Katie, I think the ball is in your court. So
One of the minutes comments was that you guys liked the landscape last time.
no, you know, you're not on for final yet.
Yeah, but can you clarify you know, a little,
That courtyard, if you do an analysis of permeable and impermeable materials on the site,
mhm.
including the ADU, including the driveway, including the pool, there's a lot of impermeable.
That's helpful. So more green and permeable. Got it.
Yeah, well, no, forget about the word permeable. That assumes that it's hard as much as possible. Just
Green.
Montecito, semi-rural, you know?
Mhm.
Gravel is your friend.
The thing that makes Montecito is, yeah, there's a lot of money, so the quality of the stuff is here, but it's greenery, greenery, greenery. Please, this is your opportunity to
Had a
shine.
comment too. And as I look at this, you know, if the pool wasn't there, you'd have quite a yard.
Yeah, it'd be,
And maybe they're trying to cram, I mean, that's kind of the thing I look at. It's like, wow, they're trying to, if you didn't have the pool there, you could probably maneuver plantings and things around. So maybe that's something to consider in your discussion with
and have
the,
you done the Welo on this yet?
Yes.
And it works with the pool that size.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the willow is probably fine. I mean, the plant species are all fine, absolutely. I mean, it's a nice palette, but
Quantities.
it's just, yeah, it could be bumped up in terms of quantities, but then just softened. I mean, as I said, gravel's your friend, especially in Montecito.
Okay, so we're
Sorry,
on
but
for.
in regards to the pool,
Sorry,
I
Marco,
think
speak
the
up.
client, yes, in regards to the pool, the client would like to keep the pool. I'm with him now, and he's wishing for that to stay. So that, I guess, would not be a thing to consider.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, yeah. I don't hear anybody saying the pool's gotta go.
No.
Yeah,
No, nobody
I don't
put that
think
as a
that's really
condition.
our purview.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if the pool was in the courtyard area, or a lap, and then you have to hold back?
Okay, so does anybody want to make a motion for preliminary, please? Or you want to leave this in my court?
Material crops.
I'll make a motion to grant preliminary approval, but to come back to full board?
No, I don't think so. No.
You feel comfortable?
And to restudy the landscape, augment, I think.
Well, and it's restudy hardscape and landscape.
Well, augment the greenery on the property. So does that do it for you?
And more specifically, maybe in the rear and not,
You know,
well, we're gonna leave that to
it's
you,
a,
Katie.
yeah, she's licensed, you know, she knows what she's doing.
Okay.
Okay, is there a second to that, please? I'll second it. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, and back at preliminary, back of consent. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Tip recused himself from this, okay? That's it, ladies and gentlemen.
All for adjourning today's meeting of June 27th.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Thanks, Katie.
Thanks. What?